What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale coming at you with the certified fantabulous Mr. Grant Hughes. It's the Hardwood Knocks annual NBA late night trade deadline wrap up this year, coming to you, Grant, in landscape and vertical mode because we're hip and cool. After some technical difficulties in which our originally scheduled stream just disappeared, we are here. Lots happened this week. Excited to get to it. No one I want to speak with more about the bedlam that is this week than you, Grant. And I ask you this before we really just dive into the slop. How the heck are you?
Man, I'm tired. It was a day. It's been a day.
It's been a week.
It's been a week. Yeah, I'm just delighted to speak to you. We spoke once earlier today. If anybody is double dipping with us today, or well, maybe you won't be listening or watching this till tomorrow, but and that also checked out our BR stream, where for 90 minutes we also talked about stuff. Good for you. I'm excited to talk to you. We've smoked it.
Smoked it. I went back.
People are saying, Dan.
First of all, people are saying, because I did get multiple messages.
Oh, good.
But
I got zero, but I'm very disconnected.
We started off pretty poorly, I think, because we both had echoes in our ears. There was just a lot. It was awkward. But after the first couple of minutes, we got into a group. But yeah, I echo. Thanks, everyone, for checking us out. We're going to work big to small, but Grant and I are going to alternate. We don't know where each other's going with. We're going to talk about the individual moves, but teams at large when it warrants it. Grant does know where I'm going to go to start us off, though. I want to begin with the trade that didn't happen with Giannis. And I want to make a few things clear here, Grant. If I were the Bucks, I would absolutely have not accepted any of the rumored packages that were on the table. Not moving him is the right call. What I don't like is these people that are buying into the idea that Giannis actually wanted to stick around the entire time, never requested a trade, that there is some slight or agenda against their team. I understand the frustrations of other fans or media talking about your favorite team's best player and how they should want out. This wasn't just Shams starting over the summer. We had Shams, we had Mark Stein, we had Jake Fisher, Sam Amick had stuff. There was equivocation on Giannis's front, and I would argue that is putting it lightly. It's fine that he ended up sticking around. If they can convince him to stay by making a big move this summer when they have 3 first-round picks available, I'm totally okay with it. I wouldn't have moved him either because I think that the offers won't get worse at the very least. And if anything, you're going to open up more suitors like the Spurs or the Rockets, maybe even the Thunder, the Hawks, depending on how the lottery shakes out, depending on how the playoffs, shake out. That is all fine. But I understand the whole Shams business model and just NBA rumors at large. The way the sausage is made is icky at times. It's not great. Let's not pretend because Giannis posted Legends recruit or don't leave, whatever he did. He at least contemplated, if not nudged, the Bucks to move him. They didn't. I think that was the smart move. We're both on the record as saying it'd be really freaking cool if he stays, wins another title, or is just a one-team player and they're relevant. I'm not mad they didn't trade him, but let's not pretend that this was a fabricated situation. And that's where I'm at with the Bucks. And my final thought is, if you were going to keep Giannis, they better be on the same page this time because their biggest move was getting Ousmane Dieng. And if he wants to come back and play, and there's already stuff floating around about that he'll play a little bit or maybe he won't go full board, this better be on the same page because we thought this year was going to be kind of a gap year for them anyway, even after waiving and stretching Dame. He didn't seem happy with that. So I don't want to hear that they're like at odds now. You better be on the same page if you kept him. That because you didn't make the big move. So you're not planning around this season, which again, not only do I think is fine, it's exactly what I would have done.
Man, yeah. So I say this, I guess, without judgment, but Giannis did every single thing he could do to get traded without saying, trade me. And maybe he did say, trade me, and we just don't know about it, right? Like, so here's where I think I'm at now. I'm real fucking tired of the whole thing. This is going to be a theme throughout. I hope everyone's picking up on this. I think the biggest issue for me is nothing has changed. The only difference is when we will again address this, which will be later, which will be this offseason, because Giannis will be eligible to sign an extension. And he will or he won't, and we probably will be able to cut and paste several things from Shams and or previous situations when Giannis has basically made clear that he would like to be in Milwaukee and is committed, or I want to win here, or some version of that, right? And again, I don't fault him for that. Like, it's kind of cool in a weird way that he wants to stay put and wants to be a one-team player. Like you said, we're on board. That's a laudable thing to be. It's hard to do that. It's rare. I guess it showcases some level of loyalty in a business that really has none, unless you're in the absolute upper crust and you're good enough to warrant that kind of loyalty from a team. But nothing's changed. The Bucks are still in as bad a position relative to Giannis's sort of hopes for being on a contending roster as they were before the deadline. Like I don't see a way for that to change. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like what's going to happen? They're going to trade. They're going to make another Miles Turner-ish signing or Damian Lillard-ish trade that hasn't been enough. And Giannis will be older and is coming off this calf, and who knows what that's going to like. What circumstances have changed on the ground that will prevent this from happening again at its first opportunity?
I honestly don't think that it's going to be. That's my feeling. Is I don't think Giannis is on the Bucks to start next year. I kind of hope I'm wrong. The one team, but this to me is more, from the Bucks perspective, is more about there will be teams that don't come out of the woodwork, but teams that we have talked about that just weren't rumored to be after him now. I think what's changed is the offers for him. Honestly, who had the best offer for like the actual sourced rumor for him? Most of them were dog shit. It involved a lot of, well, what if this team trades this player and gets 8 first-round picks they could send to the Bucks?
So you're right. That will change because we talked about this with Jake on the Jake Fisher on the live stream.
Cool flex.
Like, thanks. I told Jake it was a cool flex that he had a phone battery, I think. I hope he didn't take offense to that. What will change is like San Antonio might lose in the first round and they're like, all right, enough of this, like slow playing this Wemby stuff. Let's go. Right. Then they can put an offer on the table. It's better than anything the Bucks got at the deadline for sure. And maybe better than anything they're going to get over the summer. Throw the Rockets in there, throw the Knicks improving their potential offer. The Wolves maybe can. So yeah, that's different. What I mean, what hasn't changed and what is, I guess, my core source of frustration is that Giannis wants to win a title, wants to contend for a title. It cannot happen in Milwaukee. So like, I guess maybe this is like residual frustration from a year ago when I said that, and probably 2 years ago.
2 years ago
when I said that. And so I'm trying to hold two ideas in tandem. One is I think it's nice that he wants to be on this team and he wants to stay put and doesn't want to demand a trade. I think that's nice. I think I'm having a hard time holding that at the same time as him convincing himself that it can happen there. It can't, man. It can't. So like we're just going to burn more calories and waste more time doing the same thing.
The only counter I will give you is that they will have 3 first-round picks to trade this summer. Mm-hmm. And I think based off how the Jaren Jackson Jr. sweepstakes unfolded, based off how the Anthony Davis sweepstakes unfolded, based off how the Trae Young sweepstakes unfolded, 3 first-round picks, I think, goes further than it used to. You might even get to a point where so they're going to get the less favorable of their own in the Pelicans pick this year. And then they open up there's 2 additional first-round picks post 2030 that they could trade, 2031 and 2033. There's a chance, I'm not saying it could definitely happen, that you could keep this year's pick and then you trade the other 2 and get like a real player in here, someone better than John or better fitting than John Morant. And now what the Bucks have done is that scenario is still on the table, but I just think then, okay, and if it's not, if it doesn't pan out, if he wants out, look, the offers are going to either be the same, but they'll probably be better just by virtue of there being more teams involved.
I hope you're right. I think this is the other obvious point that's been made is that if you're trading for Giannis in the offseason as opposed to the deadline, you're getting maybe 1 playoff run out of him, and that's worse than 2. However, if you are trading for him, you you better goddamn well know that you're going to be able to extend him, right? Like that. So
that's on you at that point, right?
That's on you, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Here's my thing. I understand. We all have fatigue from this, and I actually understand why the Bucks are annoyed that everyone. If the perspective was, well, they should have just moved him at this deadline and taken what they could have gotten.
That's not right. That's not right.
That's wrong.
We are in total alignment on that. The offers were not good enough. I'm just annoyed at just
typical Warriors fan.
How
just
we
mad.
Just super mad. Yeah.
Let's move on. You get to pick now where we go.
I mean, I think. Well, I guess this is maybe the biggest trade. Let's do the Anthony Davis to the Wizards deal.
How funny is it that's like?
I don't know, man. There is one other one that I think actually is more relevant to like actual competitive basketball this season, which we will get to. But
so we're starting with the Wizards.
We're starting with the Wizards. Shocking trade. Yes, Anthony Davis getting traded, not shocking. Landing with the Wizards, really surprising. So the particulars of that, for anyone that forgot in the last week because it's been a blur, the Mavs send Anthony Davis, Dante Exum, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell to the Washington Wizards. That's a huge amount of salary. In return, the Mavericks receive Marvin Bagley III, Malachi Branham, AJ Johnson, Chris Middleton, the Oklahoma City Thunder's 2026 first-round pick, just in pen, that's the 29th or 30th pick in this upcoming draft. The Phoenix Suns 26 second, the Bulls 27 second, Houston's 29 second, the Warriors 20 31st, which is effectively a fake first. That's what we like to call it. It has top 20 protection, becomes a second if not conveyed. So
can I add one thing before, since we're going to talk about this in the macro?
Yeah.
It is very likely that the Wizards acquired Trae Young and Anthony Davis while giving up one first-round pick that will be the number 30 pick, and that is not their own pick. I don't care what you like. We have to get into the extensions, what it means for the team. That's objectively insane.
So right. Like, okay, let's start there. Like value-wise, I don't care what Anthony Davis makes. He's Anthony Davis. Like you don't know how many games you're going to get out of him, or like how much more weight he's going to put on. I'm real punchy tonight.
I love it.
Or how he'll produce as he ages. Right. It's still Anthony Davis, and then it's still Trae Young. Similar arguments. You're not really sure like how productive he's going to be. Can you build all these for one terrible first? Like, okay, yeah, sign me up. It's a fascinating roster building conversation. We could do a whole pod on like, oh, is this a new way to just kickstart out of a rebuild when you have like some in between pieces that aren't cornerstones? You'll get some like flawed cornerstones in there for a minute and just let the in between young guys marinate. Interesting. But you're right. Like the value, it's just I think you just do this if you're Washington, especially if the alternative is, well, we got to burn this cap space on somebody at some point this summer. Are we going to do better than Anthony Davis and Trae Young? Like, I don't think so. So it's ill-fitting because of just where the Wizards are. They're one of the worst teams in the league, and Davis and Young are both distressed assets, obviously, because that because they came so cheap. And it's very strange. But I think where you start with this is like, if you're the Wizards, why not? Right? Like, why not for that price?
I was having this discussion with Mort in a DM, and he says he's ultra conservative. And by the way, I just want to point out, we'll be reading comments as we go through, but because StreamYard's just awesome at the moment, we can't put them on screen. Otherwise they'll ruin our format like Grant just did. So if he could take them off screen, that would be great. So the Mavs should rehire and fire Nico Harrison. So I'm with you. I'm of the why not mind, because they gave up afterthought assets, and you could say, well, they're cost controlled assets. And it's the number 30 pick in this year's draft. This is going to come down to two things for me, because you could be concerned about the on-court fit between Alex Sarr and Anthony Davis as an example. Sarr's not a good enough shooter yet, but he will shoot it. At the same time, well, that's why you bring in Trae Young, because there's very few players who, when they're even forget about his scoring efficiency, when he's a semblance of healthy, his ability to make chemistry with bigs, to work in tight spaces, that'll help both of them. Yeah, you should have concern. Well, how much is he going to be on the ball? What does that mean for Keyshawn George? What does that mean for Trae Johnson? What does that mean for this year's first-round pick? Those are absolutely concerns. I think, looking at what we know right now, one, give the Wizards front office the benefit of the doubt. What have they done to short-circuit anything since Michael Winger and Dawkins took over? The other thing here, too, is a lot of it kind of also rests on, well, what do they extend them for. And if they decide not, let's just say they don't extend them. Trae Young plays out his player option, leaves for nothing. Anthony Davis plays out his contract and leaves for nothing. Okay? There's also a chance that even if they don't sign an extension, let's say Trae Young plays out next year on an expiring contract. Isn't there a chance they get more than CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Here's the other thing. So the argument we probably have made in similar situations was like, oh man, now you're just getting in the way of the reps and the development for these guys, these young players you have, while worsening your draft picks. So you're diminishing your chance at getting another cornerstone player, right? That's an argument. That is if you wanted to make that argument against this trade, we've done it, and it makes sense.
We'll do it again too.
We'll do it again. If maybe within the hour. But the thing is, like, I'm fascinated that maybe this is a different way to operate as a rebuilder, because like, I think we like Keyshawn George. We like Alex Sarr. We've loved Bilal Coulibaly. We're not sure where we are on him at the moment, but I don't think
I like him as a friend. I think
he seems like a nice guy, probably a good listener.
He needs to change his Andrew Tate adjacent reading habits.
Oh no!
Other than that,
see, you can't lead me down these roads. I don't know.
We're talking about
things.
Just the basketball player.
All right, just the basketball player. That really threw me. But
podcast ruined.
We've also never really been convinced that any of those guys is like, well, that's the guy, right? We're like, maybe you got to squint, or like, well, I could see him being a number 2 or a 3 on a good team. So if that's what you have, what's wrong with bringing in some guys that'll probably help you win? The Wizards should, I mean, what's our expectation for their record next year? 500, maybe better. Like, who knows? Injuries will have a lot to, right. Anything's possible. So maybe you get these prospects that you still like, but aren't sure about as like cornerstones with a capital C. You get them some reps in meaningful games, which matter, or like more meaningful anyway, which matter. And you might get a better sense of what role they should ultimately play, right? Like like if Sarr becomes undeniable, it's like, okay, great. But if not, it's like, okay, he's getting used to the role we're going to really ultimately want him in. And the reality of it is teams can get their cornerstones at 16 or at 20 or at 11 in the draft. It doesn't need to be the number 1 pick, right? Like, so you can kind of have it both ways. I'm interested to see if we see more rebuilds get short circuited in this particular way, where it's like, short-term commitment. We did. Maybe we should move there. We probably said enough on this trade. The Mavericks side. I know you hate the Mavericks side, and I want to let you cook for a minute.
The only thing I wanted to add to the Wizards, I actually think the only reason to give this a demerit would be you think that their cap space was going to go further than this, and the answer to that is just no.
No way.
So, like the answer is just no. Or, and this to me is the most valid point, you think that they're going to just give these guys extensions that should not be signed. And then we can revisit this if they do. As of right now, I'm just willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. We do want to go to the Maverick side of this. I said this while I was doing, did I say it to you or did I just post it? I don't remember diverging from consensus more often than I did this trade deadline. And it actually makes me feel really bad. Like my stomach was churning, because not that I want to have hive mind, but you feel more confident when
you feel like you're missing something if you're, yeah, right.
And everyone was like, man, Dallas, like, yeah, they did it. And I'm like, what? Here's my thing. Yes, you have to, well, you don't have to. Like, yeah, let's look at the Luka Doncic trade tree because it's hysterical. But you do have to evaluate this deal independent of that. What we don't have to do is evaluate it independent of, oh, hey, Patrick Dumont and company had enough information in the offseason to realize that they fucked up and Nico should have already been gone, or that they could have traded Anthony Davis for more than what is probably going to be a first-round pick that is number 30. And I understand they got a lot of salary off the books. Congratulations. I understand you don't own what are you doing? They don't have enough flexibility to where you're going to go out there and sign a big name in free agency, because, hey, Grant, guess what? That doesn't happen anymore for starters. 2, they're not dealing with that type of flexibility just yet. And you're also not going to just necessarily acquire someone to expedite your timeline, because you don't control your own first round pick after this year again until I think theirs is 2030. Maybe it's 2031. I can't remember. So I just think that even if you separate this from the Luka Doncic trade, you are not going to convince me that you couldn't have gotten more for Anthony Davis either over the offseason or, more critically, had you been willing to take, let's use the Raptors as an example. I understand the Jakob Poeltl deal goes on forever. Do you think it would have hamstrung the Cooper Flag timeline that much if you were getting 3 first-round picks up from the Raptors? And so if you didn't like, I'm just using them as an example. If you didn't like them, fine. If you think this was the best, now, if you think this was the best deal out there, because I do believe that front offices are not actively in the business of choosing deliberately worse deals. I guess this one did last year, but it's a different front office.
They just didn't seek out other options, I would say.
Are you going to tell me over the offseason? First of all, I don't buy into this idea that there's no way Anthony Davis could have come back healthy. And if this was his value, you're telling me he had no chance of rebooting it? I know he hasn't looked great in Dallas. I know that him and Cooper Flag fit isn't great. I totally understand that. More teams have flexibility in the summer. More teams can talk themselves into weird shit over the summer. And this wasn't a can't miss return. And their books aren't just like, when you kind of look at it, it's not like they're squeaky clean moving forward. So I hated this for the Mavs. I don't think it does. They're not any worse off, but they're also not any better off to me.
Yeah.
And if you're moving Anthony Davis, I need to be able to sit here and say that, yeah, you're definitively better off.
I think I'm with you. I would say that if a component of your distaste for this trade involves so the further, maybe the better way to frame it is, the further back you go, the easier it is to just get to an F if you're grading this trade. You know, like if it's in analyzing what they could have got had they traded him before the season, which they should have, which they didn't, because Nico Harrison was still there and he was pot committed. Or if they just, the further back if he's Luka Doncic instead of Anthony Davis, like you go all the way back, it gets worse and worse and worse. What I think I agree with you completely on is just not seeing this as like the best value you're going to get for Anthony Davis, like flaws and all, and pretty clear clutch pressure campaign to get him out of there and all. Mm-hmm. It seems like a couple components were at play here that, to me, like, I want it to make sense, because I want to believe that like these people are competent that are making these decisions, and they are to almost 100% certainty. Nico Harrison's not there anymore. I think he made an incompetent decision, but like, I just can't get to. Someone would need to explain to me what the drawback would have been to waiting to the offseason. Like, I don't understand. It's the same Giannis logic. It's like,
you couldn't have bought out Chris Middleton.
Those offers suck. Don't accept them. Like, I gotta believe Anthony Davis could have gone for more had they waited. So it seems like they wanted to turn the page. That was a factor, I think.
Fair.
They like, I don't know how you weigh that. It's not like an analytical concern. It's just like, we gotta not do this anymore. We need to like scrub the hard drive of any like cookies that involve Anthony Davis or Nico or Luka or anything. We have Cooper Flag now. Let's just look at that and not anything else that happened before. And Anthony Davis being around is like, oh, right. Remember that? You know, like, I think that was a huge factor. And it's the only thing that starts to make it like understandable that they took what they got for him.
You know what? I might be understating the importance of the turning the page factor, because now it's just, you got this out of the way in the Luka Doncic trade. Like, the Luka Doncic trade can now, because that was part of the narrative and had to be exhausting for everyone involved.
That's still a rash decision though, right? Like, that's not a logically based decision. That's like an emotional decision of like, I don't like how it feels to have to think about this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So would you have made this deal, or would you have waited?
I would have waited. And
like, do you know what?
This is a terrible deal. Like, it's just, you aren't getting anything.
Well,
good
Desmond
out
Bane
of it.
was drafted at number 30, Grant. So why don't you relax?
Yeah, I just said you could get a cornerstone at 16. So what am I saying?
Here's my other thing too, is that I think we're past, at least the way that the CBA is currently set up, and we were all wrong. It has not nuked the trade market It has killed free agency. But what I will say is some people say, see, you said it made trades harder. As someone who grades every single trade, it has absolutely made trades harder. It is, and there's like a third team involved, and it feels like everything. I want to ban second-round pick swaps. Those are stupid and not cool. And I'd also like to institute a ban on, if you're going to report something, you have to report the details. No more Ivica Zubac was traded to the Indiana Pacers, and then waiting 15 minutes to tell us for who. That is BS. Anyway, I don't think players, Trey's an example. Anthony Davis is now an example. You want an extension? Okay, cool. You're not getting one. I'm all for players. If they can get one, yes, sign one, negotiate it. Why do you feel pressure because if this is the return you're going to get for Anthony Davis, why do you feel, well, we got to extend him because what if we lose him for nothing? You just did. What's different? You just did it
What's
sooner.
The difference?
So
yeah, no,
I don't subscribe to that logic anymore. I want to say something nice about the Mavericks, though. I did think they made a smart move doing Malachi Branham for Tyus Jones, and they wouldn't have had the flexibility to do that without moving Anthony Davis. That's not the reason to move him. But, and by the way, they did get off the Hardy deals, as you mentioned. They did get off the D'Angelo Russell player option. But I think Tyus Jones, he's not what he's been in Orlando, and he's not really even what he's been in what he was in Phoenix. I think just if there's someone who plays adult in the room basketball, it's him. I think that will benefit Cooper Flagg.
Sure.
If Derek Lively's not going to play again this season, it'll help Daniel Gafford. It'll just help everybody. So I thought that was a good move, even though I was not a fan of the Anthony Davis move.
Yeah. I guess you're up. You get to choose now. Just a tight 25 minutes on one trade so far. We're doing great.
We did three. We did Giannis, the Mavs, and the three teams. That's fine.
All right. Okay.
Let's do Garland for Harden.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Cavs because we have other stuff to get to with the Clippers. Speaking of me, I don't know if I diverged from consensus on this, Grant, but my reaction to the Darius Garland for James Harden trade was a big boatload of why. I understand that James Harden's the better player right now. In theory, he gives you better title equity right now. I don't think he improves your title equity enough to go all in on right now. Darius Garland is 10 years younger. I know he's developed injury struggles. Both of us had him on an all-NBA team last season. So I didn't view this, and something could still come out for sure, as, the Cavs know something is sinister up with his ankle. Because I know it was a second-round pick. They attached a pick to Darius Garland to get 36-year-old James Harden. This very much reeked of they're worried about Donovan Mitchell leaving or requesting out if they flame out in the playoffs. You know what? This move.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Say it.
No, it's like painting a scene, guys. Donovan's going to be pissed off, and he's not going to stay if we have a colossal playoff flame out. What's the solution? James Harden is the solution. What? Like that?
You trade. You know what you do? Because if he suggested it, you trade Donovan Mitchell at that point. If he's the one telling you to go trade for. Look, James Harden is durable and really good, so I don't mean to denigrate him in that sense. But did you acquire you have to pay James? I don't want to hear about Darius Garland 2 years left on his contract. James Harden. And we have to get into the Clippers and did the aspiration stuff dictate anything they're doing with their trade deadline. But James Harden wanted out of LA because they weren't going to pay him. And now you're going to have to pay him. He's older. I hated this move. I understand it if you didn't think Darius Garland was ever going to be healthy for this season. But if you make a trade like this where you get 10 years older and are trading someone in that deal, the younger player, who was just in the All-NBA conversation last season, that's a problem. That's a real problem.
Yeah, it is. So the problem with the bit that I just did about like making fun of the Cavs for like James Harden is the solution to our playoff disappointments is that like it's the most hack sports talk radio take there is, but it's kind of, you could stop the analysis there. This is a dumb trade because all James Harden does is disappoint in the playoffs and then ask to be traded if you don't give him exactly what he wants. And the Cavs are just signing up for that. So to me,
what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? So again, I want it to make sense. I want to believe these are rational actors. The Cavs have to be so convinced that Darius Garland is done as like an all-star player. And like these toe injuries. It's both great toes that have had issues now. He's a small guard. Maybe
you call them great toes.
They're called great toes. They don't call them
the big toe is called the great toe.
It's called the great toe. Yeah, it's like
I think I don't want to overstate this, but I think you just changed my life. I didn't know this at all.
But Darius Garland's great toes not so good. So maybe the Cavs are just like, this is never getting better. Which is like, I don't know how you know that. Maybe they do. And if that's the case, this is still a crazy trade with like too much risk for me. So that's as close as I can get to making sense of it. I will concede Garland is an inferior player to James Harden right now today. So I get, and like maybe at some point the playoff disappointment streak ends. Like,
Salt City Hoop says we need feet pics for Garland. Sorry,
I don't know. I'm trying to justify it for the Cavs, and it's just it's difficult. It's the kind of thing where I think you said, like, if this is what Donovan Mitchell wants, or he's out, then I think it's time to say, like, you can be out. Like, this just isn't worth it. I don't think,
because there's a chance that if this blows up in your face, so now, like, at least you would have
been leaving anyway.
Right, you would have been left with like Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, and then if you decide to keep Jared Allen there, I understand there was pressure, and so I kind of. I'm sorry, the only way this works out, short of them, is either they win a title, and if they win a title this season, you never have to apologize, or Darius Garland is just cooked, which I'm sorry, I refuse. This is the first year of his career that they've been worse with him on the floor. I'm not just prepared to throw away that trap. I understand the injuries, and I also understand that, like, the James Harden jokes get a little tired. James Harden has been fantastic this year, and he's going to lighten the load upon Donovan Mitchell. I think the chemistry he'll have with Jared Allen will be great. I'm interested to see how him and Evan Mobley work together, and how this, but he's going to slow you down too. Like, in that, like, so if you want to play at a little bit more of a frenetic pace in certain situations, that all of a sudden needs to happen only in secondary lineups.
Yeah.
It's just it's a big risk. I didn't like it. What did you think, before going on to the Clippers, about the rest of their deadline? The cost cutting, I don't think it wasn't a huge opportunistic cost, but they are very, very not wing heavy is the best way that I would describe it.
Yeah.
Right,
well, so I guess I think I don't know if we talked about it. I think Keon Ellis is probably a more valuable player than DeAndre Hunter. Even without the monies involved.
You're right, but he's like, you're right, but there's something just, I feel better about putting DeAndre Hunter on a wing than I do of putting Keon Ellis on like, he can't guard anyone who's really that much bigger than him. And
to be honest, he made more sense on a team as a third guard that had Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, because he just comes in and guards the other backcourt player that you don't want either of those guys to guard in the when you have one or the other on the floor. Schroeder's, I don't know, whatever. Some of the cost cutting I can get behind. So am I forgetting anything else? They dumped Lonzo effectively. They're going to be able to convert Plowden, right?
And I think
which makes sense.
Do you view any of the Garland stuff or anything that they did? I think certainly maybe the Hunter thing. Do you view it as a real vote of confidence in what they've seen from Jalen Tyson this year?
Yeah, and even Tyson, I wish he were just like more of a definite wing than he is. Like, I wish he had a little more size. But yeah, that has to have been part of it. And that's a decent bet to me. Again, it all made sense to me, just right up until you decided that James Harden is the answer to your problems. Because if the best you can say about James Harden is he's the answer for a minute, and then he is the problem. So the Cavs are just going to be waiting for that shoe to drop, and it could happen it could happen in what 2 months. And we're just going to be looking at James Harden is going to ask out, and Donovan Mitchell is signaling he's not going to extend. It's like, we're not that far from that eventuality.
We're going to move on to the Clippers, and we should talk about their trade deadline at large. We know what they traded for. They got Darius Garland and a second-round pick for James Harden, who says he didn't request a trade, but it feels like he requested a trade. I'm not going to throw it all on him, but at the very least, it was a mutual parting of the ways. They also traded Ivica Zubac to the Pacers. They traded Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown to the Pacers for Isaiah Jackson, Benedict Mathurin, Indy's 2026 first round pick that they will only get if it falls between 5 and 9. And then if it's not between 5 and 9, it turns into an unprotected 2031 first round pick. They got Dallas's 2028 second round pick and then an unprotected Indiana first round pick in 2029. I don't actually, this deal, we'll talk about the Pacers next, obviously, but this deal, I look at it and yeah, the Clippers just had to make it. I think so. I'm curious as to what you think though about like so that you turned James Harden and Ivica Zubac into 2 Indiana unprotected first round picks, Benedict Mathurin and Darius Garland, and 2 seconds. That's a really good trade deadline. And what I'm more interested in is I think Darius Garland, if he's healthy, I saw a lot of people saying, well, yeah, they're probably going to look at trading Zubac now that they have Garland. And I was like, well, Darius Garland, if he's healthy, is still like an all NBA type player. They could still just be good. So are they not planning on him playing anytime soon? The fact that they moved Zubac, does it that's what I'm just trying, so they don't control their own first round picks for the next few years. So and Kawhi's still on this team. It's just a little weird, right? Like, what is your read on their direction?
I think maybe the simplest place to start is where you started, which is saying this is just an offer you say yes to because you're getting an unprotected future first and maybe and you're getting 2 firsts and one of them is unprotected. Or I guess would the 2031 be unprotected if it doesn't fall in that narrow range?
Yes.
In 26. So you might be getting 2 unprotected future firsts from a team that in Indiana is going to be good, but who knows? That's far enough out where what if Tyrese Halliburton's never the same? I don't know. Like that's not impossible. So there's real upside there. And Zubac is at best your second best player on a decent team, third or fourth best on a real contender, I think you just do that. I think one thing this reflects, not to get on too much of a tangent here, is that Trae Young doesn't get you any picks and Ivica Zubac gets you 2 unprotected firsts. Teams are just really making it clear that you need to fit into a system, not cost a lot of money, and be just easy to work around. And that's worth a lot. And if you're not you're not worth nearly as much.
You're to your big contract point too. You could make the case that the Clippers got more for Ivica Zubac than the Grizzlies got for Jaren Jackson Jr. Just because of the value of those 2 picks. And I think a lot of it depends on your how you feel about Benedict Mathurin.
Sure. And I think it's just, if you're looking for what are the repercussions of the apron era? That's kind of it, man. What the Zubac trade versus some of these other, in a vacuum, much bigger names, much better players, the returns, much bigger salaries, big factor. I think this is just indicative of this is what value looks like now. And teams I say they're getting smarter about it. It feels like this is just what the preference is now. I think this is what firsts will go for in this era. So, what are the Clippers broader plans? I don't know, man. I'm with you. It feels strange. Just because of all the things I said about Zubac's value, the Clippers should view him that same way, right? He's obviously a valuable piece. He doesn't cramp your books and he's a winner. And you've just been very good when everybody's healthy and he's been a huge part of it. So I don't know. You can get real conspiracy theory focused and say they got to go get everybody else's picks because they don't have any and they're probably going to lose more when the aspiration punishment comes down. Maybe that's it. But I don't know how you prove
the theory. That. My favorite conspiracy theory is that they think Kawhi's contract is going to get voided.
So why have any vets at all here?
My whole thing was I look at it as twofold. I actually look at it through this lens. The conspiracy theory is funnier. I wouldn't say I'm rooting for it, but that's cooler to talk about. That would be better for content. But I actually think the Ivica Zubac, the Harden thing was they probably didn't seek it out. It was sort of foisted upon them. And if you can get Darius Garland, who there's just a chance we look back at this as an all-time fumble by the Cavs and just an all-time heist by the Clippers. So you make it. Then this trade comes along for Zubac, and it's, well, how do we say no to this? Because, and I think part of this is the logic, they're making the play-in no matter what. just the way that the teams behind them are not trying to win. They're in ninth place right now. Maybe the Warriors jumped them. And so from the Clippers perspective, let's say you keep that team intact, or let's say, Darius, you did the Harden trade, Garland's healthy, you keep Zubac. Maybe you could get into the playoffs so that you get the right to be trucked by the Thunder or the Nuggets or somebody else. So it sort of felt like them reading the room of, okay, we're going to make the play-in anyway. This isn't shortening our season by much, if at all, by doing these things. And finally, now that you did take on Garland's money, we've talked a lot about their 2027 flexibility. Moving Zubac, they have $50 million basically in guaranteed contracts on the books for that year. It's 44.9 for Garland, and Isaiah Jackson's at 6.4. That's the only guaranteed money. They will pick up others, but like they can go into 2027 with absurd amounts of cap space still. So this is just, that's how I look at it. But I do find the aspiration element interesting. We do have, Grant, a fellow attorney of yours in the comments, though, saying, as an attorney, I can assure you that the Clippers have no fucking idea what the NBA is thinking as far as punishment, unless there have been non-public depositions of sorts incriminating the Clips. Would the latter surprise you based off knowing that we've heard the law firm has interviewed Pablo Torre, that there's just been these depositions? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. I don't know. I would assume the Clippers have a rough idea of like what and of what might be possible punishment wise. I don't think they can know, with a high degree of certainty. The only thing, everybody said it, but like the only thing we know for certain is that there's nothing coming out till after the All-Star game, like period. So that's the only given in this whole thing. As you were describing, sort of, well, a couple offers came in for the Clippers that they just like, well, we have to take this. I think it's interesting to think about it through the lens of like, sometimes you don't get to choose when your rebuild starts. Like sometimes it just chooses you. And like this one just kind of rolled up and well, yeah, okay, we'll trade Harden and Zubac. Like, sure.
If they view it as a rebuild, though, why is Kawhi still on this team? I'm sure.
Well, because who knows?
He might retire. Happen. We've said it. He just might like if you trade him to the Kings, he's probably going to retire.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that and it's just like whatever happens with the aspiration fallout might just make him like someone you cannot have on your team. Very surprising. Clippers.
I thought they had an excellent trade deadline, and the final note on them is they're like less than $2 million from ducking the tax now. So somebody getting traded on draft night. I don't know who, but somebody is. Do you want to talk about Indy side of this deal? We're not grading things. I was writing it, and I still hadn't figured, like, it's the longest blurb, in part because I thought I had to do a standalone article for them, too, and it turns out I didn't, for anyone who cares. It is the longest fucking analysis I wrote, because I find it so fascinating, and I settled on this was too much. I don't know that this was the guy. Halliburton's coming back from a serious injury. For as much as I think Zubac brings to the table, there's heft on the glass. Maybe they offensive rebound now. I'm actually not worried about him playing up-tempo. Like, the Pacers they're not going to, first of all, blitz full court all the time. But he played in a faster-paced Clipper system before. I mean, look at the first half of last season or whatever it was. I just look at it and say, the fit with him and Pascal Siakam is not super intuitive. His contract is great, and it lasts another 2 We're like a year away from talking about, well, what if Ivica Zubac doesn't sign an extension or something? And what I struggled with was it, if it was one of these picks, but the fact that it was both, Mathurin seemed to bug Pacers fans, like losing him, some people more than it bugged me. It's the pick equity here, because you're in real trouble if because your timeline horizon, I know you have Tyrese Halliburton, but Pascal Siakam's not that young.
Right.
And are we sure that Tyrese Halliburton can just come back and be Tyrese Halliburton after that Achilles injury? But the one thing that I really wanted to ask you, aside from your overall thoughts, is it better or worse that, let's assume they keep this year's pick. I'm just going to assume. It's like a 50. When you look at the odds, it's like a close to a 50-50 or 60-40 proposition. Is it better that they kicked out the commitments, or do you view it as worse that they did that?
Well, we feel pretty confident that I think it's probably better that they kicked it out, because if you trade that 2026 first without all these protections and it's number one, which it could easily be given where the Pacers are, you can't live with that, right? Like that's kind of where the analysis stops for me. it is kind of like the definition of kicking the can down the road, because it might be number one in 2031, but that's a long time from now, and that's future Pacers problem, right? I just think I think you can't have a season like this and risk losing a pick as high as this pick might be. There's still a possibility though, which is like very scary. If it's 5, it's gone. Like that's tough. That's a tough look after this season.
But
right?
if it's 6, you're okay with that?
No, I was looking for like the highest possible pick that you could lose in this construction. I do agree that my first reaction was like, Zubac is okay. Everyone was saying the Pacers want a center. Zubac doesn't fit my, like, what I think of when I think of how the Pacers play. But I wonder if like, that's just too narrow of a way to think about them, because like, well, who's to say they have to play exactly like they did during that finals run, right? Like there aren't a lot of Miles Turner types, and he sucked in the finals and everybody's mad about that. So like, maybe that wasn't ever going to work for them to get where they wanted to go anyway. That's a tough sell when they made it to game 7. But so that was kind of my counter to it. The other thing is, I wonder if as they look around at the league at large and the rest of the East, and they see Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, and they see Mitchell Robinson and Cat, and they see like, maybe we do just need a bruiser. Like maybe that's just something, because they don't have that. And
they're planning for Jokic in the finals.
Right. Like maybe we run into the Nuggets. We need somebody with size. I do think there's merit to that, of just like, okay, the idea that you can only have a spacing center and we got to play this incredible read and react offensive system that got us so far. Like that's the only way this can work. I don't know if I buy into that. So I have reservations about Zubac being the guy and giving up 2 potentially unprotected firsts, but I'm open to the idea that like there's a world where the Pacers are actually even better with Zubac than they were with Turner. I'm just going to need to see it. So I'm not like, you wrote on it, you gave him a D+ for this. I'm not that far off of that. I'm in like the C range somewhere. It's not a perfect fit, but maybe it's not as like incongruous as it seemed to me, at least at first.
I applaud like the thinking, but I love when teams are aggressive because they think that they have it. And you could, like, the East isn't, I don't think it's going to get any easier. When the Celtics should be scarier next year somehow. The Pistons aren't going anywhere. The Wizards are coming. We just the Wizards are coming. Who thought? Not me.
Not sure how long they're going to stay when they get here, but they're coming.
So I applaud the Pacers doing this. Maybe it was the right time. I just don't know if this was the right player to give up this much for. We do have a question. This is a fascinating question from Regulator 8680. What could the Pacers get for Siakam if they decided to trade him? They don't like paying the tax. Yeah, by the way, that's the other thing, is if you're a team that's doing something like this, the salary of Zubac is probably more important to the Pacers than a lot of the other teams, because Indy's just not going to pay tax bills through the teeth. I will say, I think you could look at this one of 2 ways and be like, well, look at what Anthony Davis and Trae Young and even Jaren Jackson Jr. got, and you're not going to be too inspired by Siakam. Then you could say, well, look at what Zubac's got, and Pascal Siakam's an all-star without Tyrese Halliburton. Yep. So my answer would be, I honestly don't know, but if I had to guess, it's going to be less than this, what they gave up for Zubac.
Yeah, the age and the salary might. If we're
maybe
learning
2 first-round picks, but you're not getting 2. Basically, you're not getting 2 unprotected picks for Pascal. I'd be pretty shocked if that's what happened.
I wouldn't be shocked. I just wouldn't call it likely. Yeah, that's it. But if they go turn around and trade Siakam, like I really don't know what to think of the Pacers. Duck the tax another way. Like I don't get that one.
I also think, and so PD Pete says in the chat, as a Pacers fan, I know rebounding and the lack thereof has been really big for Rick Carlisle. Yeah, Zubac will help with it. They should be a force on the offensive glass if they're allowed to, because even if they're not allowed to crash, Ivica Zubac will just do it on his own, and that should be fine. But I'm also looking at it, I think you could say, well, are Achilles injuries what they used to be? Maybe they're not, but you also kind of look at the rest of this roster, and it's, all right, TJ McConnell's going to be what next year? 34. They're not like the wing department. Benedict Mathurin is gone and was never really a wing. I know Jarris Walker's played a little bit better, but he's not a wing. You have Aaron Nesmith still as like your premier. What does Ben Shepherd become? You still have this year's pick potentially, which Oh man, this makes me feel like shit. Andrew, video
No,
editor Andrew.
I was gonna put him up there, and first of all, just shout out the work he's been doing for us lately. He used the what's the guy's name, Sentinel from the Thunderbolts. When you said Void on one, it's like this. He's doing just golf clap for Andrew.
Go check out our shorts and share them with other people too, because Andrew's doing great work and he deserves.
He also points out the correct way to put a bow on this discussion because he cited an authority that is unimpeachable.
Everyone go tell Caitlin Cooper that I finally disagreed with her, and now I'm immediately going to agree with her because
wrong.
it just, if that's the problem though, there's certain people, and it's probably none with this team and Caitlin, it's none more so unsettling than not having the, and if I had listened, this year I've tried very hard not to consume anyone else's content before doing this pod, let alone my own grades. If I would have read or listened, I don't even know what she put out, I guarantee I would have came in here and be like, yeah, fucking Pacers, man. They know what they're doing.
And here's why. Because you would have gotten a really good explanation.
You're right. Where do you want to take us?
Okay, I'm up. Let's see. Okay, we did that one. Well, we got to do Jaren Jackson. I think that's...
Start with the Grizzlies because I'm a little confused.
Okay, so the Grizzlies just... Here's the particulars. The Jazz are getting Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jock Landale, who got rerouted. I'm still in a haze, right? Yeah, he did. Vince Williams Jr. And the Grizzlies got back Kyle Anderson, Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks, George Niang. The Lakers 27 first. That's got top 4 protection. A 27 first, which will be the most favorable of the Cavs or Wolves. And Phoenix's 2031 first. So for who you want to do the Grizzlies side of this first?
Well, because I think they're interesting in the sense of not only they trade Jaren Jackson Jr., but Ja Morant is still there.
Yeah, I mean, there just must have been nothing, right? Just nothing, because I think they would have just given him away for neutral salary, don't you think? Like,
now, aren't you at the point? Unless I guess they can't get the same amount of pressure that the Mavericks were getting from Anthony Davis, but this felt more like a turn the page situation than Dallas is with Anthony Davis to me.
But they didn't turn like it needed. You mean they needed to turn the page from?
And I'm talking about Ja. Jaren Jackson. I could have gone. The messaging is so mixed because I don't know what it says that they renegotiated and extended him and then ended up. And everyone's defense was, man, they got off that Jaren Jackson Jr. contract that they just fucking gave him. Yeah. The Ja Morant, I did see some of the clips. I can't remember who it was. Was it Sam Vecini or maybe it was Zach Lowe? Maybe it was both of them, framing it as this all went to crap because Ja Morant was no longer an All-NBA player. And I don't disagree. But how long have they known this? This didn't just come about this season. And not only that, but Memphis traded Desmond Bane in the offseason and tried to spin it as like a mini reorientation, in part because they did renegotiate and extend Jaren Jackson Jr. And just one more thing, your draft track record, awesome, cool. Zach Edey, when he's healthy, looks great. Jalen Wells hit. Cedric Howard hit. They have all these hits. You seldom hit on trades, including this one. And you also they talked a lot about, I think Keith Parrish is spot on. I try to think more deeply about like the logistics of roster building and direction, but they sold the idea of we're going to spend to really build around this core. They never did it. Their biggest swing was Marcus Smart. And when it blew up in their, like they've made trades where they've had to cut cost and they've tried to cut corners. This is just, I'm sorry, this is shameful shit by them. This deal, if you want it, like stop doing half-baked crap. Like you didn't even tear it down fully. Ja Morant is still there.
So again, though, I just think they probably were in a position where teams were asking for stuff with Ja, and it's just like we'll just pay him and he'll sit and whatever, right? Like I don't know. Maybe we don't need to get too far because we just can't know what those offers were, or maybe we will someday. We don't know now. The Jaren Jackson side of it, I think we both probably were okay with that extension, right? I wish this will shock you, Dan. I can't remember exactly what I thought when we discussed that extension. Go ahead.
We both viewed it as an inflection point of, this is something they're definitely going to negotiate. And they didn't. Like he just got what he got basically. Okay. And so it seems fine, but in the current cap climate and more importantly, the Grizzlies' current situation snuck up on nobody, including the Grizzlies themselves. And that's because, Grant, look at this return. Walter Clayton, an older rookie, who the theory of Walter Clayton has yet to really bear out in Utah. Taylor Hendricks is supposed to be an undercooked Jaren Jackson Jr., who I actually think I'm on record as saying I think he will be better than Jaren Jackson Jr., so I'm clearly wrong all the time, but he hasn't been the same since that leg injury last year. And then look at the picks they got. They have one pick with upside. It's the Phoenix 2031, and it's cool to like we both, or I'll speak for me. I over romanticize those distant picks all the time. Phoenix doing what Phoenix is doing right now is almost a cautionary tale against. Like they have half a decade to get even better. So this was just to me this felt like an almost turn the page trade for them, but then you didn't fully commit to turning the page, and that's just and the messaging. Like at the time when Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and John Morant were there and even kind of close to what they thought was going to be the peak, or they hadn't peaked yet, you never made good on that promise. You never got your biggest swing was Marcus Smart. And even at the time, everyone knew that wasn't it. Even if you had higher hopes than disastrous for Marcus Smart, everyone kind of knew that wasn't it. And so this organization is, again, rational thinkers are in charge. I'm sure Zach Kleiman is there. Their drafting has been very, very good. But the way that they've gone about running their team independent of that seems exceedingly poor.
Doesn't it feel like this move was based on what they got back? This move was motivated out of like fear that, my God, like what kind of dire straits are we going to be in when he's making $50 million a year? Like we're going to have to salary dump him for nothing, like Anthony Davis, or like, right? Like, or it'll be worse than that. Or it'll be like a Cat situation where it's like, this guy can't be your best player, but he's going to be making 50 plus. And it's just like, he's untradeable. And that was a risk, or that was something Memphis seemed to be afraid of so quickly after deciding, yes, let's pay him this money. And so soon after, I think I would have said like, yeah, that's a lot, but you don't really have to make any concessions when you build around Jaren Jackson Jr. You get some spacing, like he's a good defender. You get all this stuff. So it's like, maybe that's okay because he doesn't come with the same, like it's a big salary number, but it's not as like restrictive because you just throw anything else out there next to him and it kind of works. So like there's, we always love to fetishize like scalability and portability. Like he has all that. So it's okay. Yeah. 50 is a lot for, per year, but like it's justifiable. And then it seems like based on this trade, they decided like, oh no, we can't.
Oops.
Like, yeah, this is going to get so bad if we don't trade him right now. Which is just like, it's whiplash. I don't understand it. Is this a package? Like, I guess, I don't know if it's a fair question, but like, could they have gotten more somewhere else, or had they waited? I don't know. I guess the answer is probably no, because nobody it's a weird one.
Here's what you have preferred, like, because you opened up the bidding all of a sudden to, if the Knicks come calling with 2 first-round picks and other stuff, do the Spurs, the teams that you're waiting on with the Giannis sweepstakes, do you think Atlanta or the Spurs, less so the Rock? I mean, like, those are all teams that could give you more. But even, like, wouldn't the Lakers, maybe they'll have 3 first-round picks? Wouldn't you prefer the 3 first-round? Or no, Luka's there. So it's debatable, for sure.
Here's, you know what? This is unfortunate, but I'm just coming around to like your stance on this of like, don't pay him this if you think there's a remote possibility you're going to be in this position. Like they could have negotiated, right? They didn't have to do this, the renegotiate and extend. They could have given him less. Like they could have made, I don't know. I'm hesitant to like knock the trade because it maybe didn't need to happen had they acted differently in like a previous transaction cycle with respect to like what they paid him and all that stuff. But it's hard to split that up when it was so recent. So I'm getting lower on this trade the more we talk about it from the Grizzlies side. It's harder to justify.
I think it's one of the trades where you do need to factor in like kind of the entire like package of what happened, because it was so, we're not grading this because of the, like, we tried not to demerit Mavericks too hard because they moved Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. This is just, you assigned this value to this guy and then let him underwent surgery after you did it. And now all of a sudden it's this. And the messaging is mixed. And I also just stop selling draft picks when it's okay. Like, you draft well. Where has that gotten you? Mm-hmm. Here. So I do want to talk more about, because this is another, I saw people were skeptical of the Utah Jazz doing this. And I think this was the trade where I started to not realize, because I think we both knew this, but it just became clear how much we romanticized the teardown over the swings of going forward. Because what did we say about the Jazz when they ripped off the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert Band-Aid?
Love it. Great.
Love it. Excellent. You've spent the past 4 years getting mad, not you specifically, but mad that they're not losing enough. Now or you don't want to see them tank this hard. They go out and they make a swing without having to give up any of their own draft picks. Okay, I'm open to the idea that Jaren Jackson Jr. is overpaid. The Jazz still have all their first-round picks moving forward. They can find a way to assemble cost-controlled talent around him. But what I keep coming back to the fact here is they're not, like, Larry Marketing and Jaren Jackson have enough time left on their deals, and they're still young enough to where if this doesn't work out, you're not trading them from the same position of weakness, unless there's a catastrophic injury, which is always the caveat. You're not trading them from the same position of weakness as a Trae Young or Anthony Davis for two reasons. One, both of them are way more scalable than Trae Young is. Two, neither has the injury history or is as old. It won't be as old as Anthony Davis when their current deals run out. And this is a team where it's also time. Like, they weren't going to do anything other than complete trades with their cap space. And we talked about this. I mean, first of all, for anyone who likes this trade and is a Jazz fan, you're welcome, because we manifested it when we did our trade deadline primer. But two, they're trying something that's objectively cool, because Ace Bailey, Larry Marketing, Walker Kessler, I'm assuming he comes back, Jaren Jackson Jr., you're just monstrous at those four positions. And I think what's another good point, too, is the Jazz have done everything, most things I'll say within their power, to ensure that they can get these top picks. And either the lottery gods haven't rewarded them, or they've been better than expected. And I think this year, while the record doesn't necessarily reflect it, Keontae George just turning into, oh, maybe that dude's going to be an all-star. Doesn't that kind of, because what are you supposed, that nudges you in this, I said they should have traded Keontae George months ago. And I was at the point, do I view anyone on this team as untouchable leading into this deadline? Ace Bailey, probably, for sure. But what were you supposed, you trade him? Like, the whole point of going through this process is arguably to find someone like him. And I think their biggest issue right now is it's the same as the Wizards. After all of this, I don't think you can point to a single guy and say, we know he's our tent pole of the future, the best player on a contender. But do you know what can one, in the Jazz's case, like the Wizards, they have this year's pick, but I think Ace Bailey, I know he's just a rookie. I think I'm higher on him than any single young player in Washington. I love Keyshawn George and Sarr, but I think with Ace Bailey, what he's shown, when he came in, my thought was just he was going to do like all these ball dominant things and not be the connector complementary type. And it's flipped. He's done like defense, rebounding, cutting, all that stuff. So I look at this and say, well, if you assemble enough combinations of just like twos and threes in terms of the pecking order, you're just going to be really fucking good anyway. And there's real value after 4 years of losing, going out there and contending for 50 wins. And look, maybe it blows up in their space, but this is a swing I respect. And I thought the fact that they didn't have to give up their highest upside pick that they gave up is that Phoenix. They gave up one high upside pick. Maybe your mileage varies on one of those Cleveland/Minnesota picks, but that's where I'm at. I loved this trade for them.
Yep. I like it a lot. I think Andrew points out, they asked, they need to keep this year's pick, right? And I think they can. And I think you can kind of have it both ways. And that frames this for me as Jaren Jackson is just like, you said it much earlier. Okay, Utah has cap space. Great. Like, if anything's valuable, it's Utah having cap space, right? Like he just fills in that spot. And so you can get him, be ready for next year. You can still tank. And here's the thing. The Jazz are like, we're not going to pull any shenanigans this year. If they do now, nobody's mad because you're already, what next year looks like. And I think fans probably want that pick because they know there's light at the end of the tunnel because you got Jaren Jackson. You're going to have Walker Kessler back. Keontae George is super fun. You can be excited about that for next year. So now you can tank and no one's going to care. So you're going to get it both ways. The fit is weird, I think, but maybe not. A lot rests on, I said this when we spoke this deal into existence, like you don't have good defenders at every position. being big is a pretty good like second option. And if Markkanen's your 3 and Jackson's your 4 and Kessler's your 5 and Bailey maybe he's going to play some 2, like
You're
that
fine.
might get the job done. Yeah. And offensively, I'll reiterate, Lauri Markkanen basically is a giant guard, and so you can use him just like you'd use a great off the ball movement shooter who can drive it, and like that's fine. Offensively, I have no notes. This is gonna work on offense. Will Hardy's gonna finally get to like coach without a hand tied behind his back. They're gonna score a ton. Defensively, I think they should be good enough. I don't want to guess, but they should be average at worst. I would assume on defense.
Do you think that there's a bet? Do you think that we overvalue the importance of point of attack defense just because of how good those guys who are the advantage creators are, even when they're going up those? So I feel like we see more and more teams where it's look, the Knicks are flawed, but with Jalen Brunson, the Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton last year, and I know that they have Andrew Nembhard, so I guess maybe Utah still needs its Andrew Nembhard type, but Keontae George gotten a little bit better defensively, but I think there's also just, it's probably what's more important to have let's say Max Christie guarding at the point of attack, or to have that jumbo sized front. Like, what do you think provides more defensive value for Utah?
We always say that the interior positions matter more on defense. The Rudy Gobert can be a defense by himself. Amen Thompson can't be, if you want to just cite like the quintessential rim protector versus the like perimeter pest that can guard a bunch of positions. So yeah, like so the fit makes, I don't hate the fit. It's just like, all right, Markkanen's the 3, but then you don't have to play all these guys 48 minutes in conjunction, right? When Kessler's off the floor, you can get away with Jackson and spot minutes at the 5 against certain guys. You're not going to rebound, but whatever. I think this is a win for the Jazz. I love them going for it. I love them saying like enough is enough. Basically, we're tired of like having to try to lose on purpose because we're actually a little too good. Like that's no way to live. So if for no other reason, I like this because it puts an end to that era of Jazz basketball, which is like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to kind of look at a team and say, this team's actually pretty good. It sucks that they have to try to lose, for several years in a row, no less. Like now that we're past that, I think maybe that's the biggest selling point of this trade is like the Jazz can play for real now, like no more messing around.
And I just to wrap it up with my initial point was I just think they have so many outs if it doesn't work out. And if you're worried about the expenses, which we didn't really talk about, you don't get prohibitively expensive. And by the way, this is assuming that Walker Kessler's coming off a season-ending injury. Like, I don't know how much he's going to get. It might be less than we think. Keontae George, if he signs an extension, might be less than we think. Even if those dudes get a boatload, you have next year to figure it out before you're prohibitively expensive.
Yep.
Did you have any notes about the rest of their business? I thought they did a good job getting more seconds. Those are good finishing touches. But I do think their trade deadline was an abject failure because if you're going to acquire Chris Boucher, you better damn well keep him on your roster.
Just F-. What do they do? It negates
everything. So honestly, I think they should have to. I think the NBA should void the Jaren Jackson Jr. Not to trade his contract. So the assets are going to Memphis, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is voided. He's a free agent.
Just to send a message that that's not how we treat Chris Boucher, guys. He's a special treasure and he deserves better treatment. Is it your turn to pick?
It's my turn. I think we don't have any major ones that we missed, right? So I'm going to go here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going?
I hope so.
Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors, Grant. So they trade Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield for Kristaps Porzingis. They finally got their floor spacing rim protector, Grant. Will he play? Who's to say? Well, I don't want to say anything about this trade. I want to hear you cook. What did you think?
I don't know
Well, that was anticlimactic.
I have my hands on my head, so I'm really struggling. I love the Porzingis fit. I don't love the complete uncertainty about how much he will play ever, or the fact that he's an expiring contract. And there's a part of me that wonders whether this was just like, I don't know, we got to pay Buddy Hield $3 million next year. This way we don't have to pay anybody anything if we don't re-sign Porzingis. I assume the intention is to sign him when he hits free agency. I don't know what, because I'm messing around. You can't make this trade unless like you're going to keep him. If they do keep him and he is healthy, I've already talked myself into like, this is going to be spectacular. Question. Go ahead.
Why do you have to make this trade with the intent of keeping him? Because you were dead set on keeping Jonathan Kuminga? Is that
no? Because if it was just about saving money, you just decline the team option on Jonathan Kuminga and pay Buddy Hield the $3 million he's guaranteed of his $9 million salary next year.
That is a great point. Carry on. I apologize.
That's why. I mean, no, it's. So I've talked myself into Porzingis being a perfect fit. He's exactly the player that they've wanted forever. And if he's healthy, I'm interested. He's maybe the last guy in the league that like, okay, that Draymond Green might actually still be a viable offensive player if you have him out there. That zoomed out, it's wildly disappointing that this is what Jonathan Kuminga ultimately got them, the guy that they wouldn't trade for Lauri Markkanen or God knows who else that was available along the way. I wrote about this today. It's just like, you can lay blame at the feet of the executives, Bob Myers, I guess, or Joe Lacob, who maybe put his thumb on the scale that picked Kuminga over Franz Wagner, that it picked him and Moody over like Şengün and Trey Murphy and Jalen Johnson later in that same draft class.
I think based off Ime Udoka's post-game press conference today, I think he'd be willing to give you Alperen Şengün if you're interested.
I didn't see that. Did Şengün do a bad thing?
They have not been impressed with Alperen Şengün defensively since Steven Adams' injury. One of the questions I clocked was, what did you make of them going at Alperen Şengün, like targeting him the pick and roll? He was like, it just happens all the time, but this isn't new. What's the question? It was just like, oh man, like
tough love. You can blame Steve Kerr for not playing Kuminga. You can blame the team and the Lakers for I don't know, not just pulling the trigger earlier. This is where they were, and if it's this desperate and it's probably Porzingis or nothing, give me Porzingis. I think that's fine. It doesn't change the bottom line as far as this year, probably just being okay, there's not really a point. Like, I'll just full disclosure, I'm not going to tune into many Warriors games the rest of the year because I sort of get it. And I got to spend my hours on other stuff, other teams that are more interesting. Right. I don't know. You're going to say something,
and that's a totally serious
Hornets for one. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say really. Like I like the player. I like the potential fit. I'm with everyone else as far as the questions of like, is Porzingis ever going to play consistently again? Like, I don't know. That's an open question.
This trade, Andrew says, when they got Porzingis, I thought they were 1,000% going to get Giannis. I looked at it the other way. Because I think the Porzingis
they said it was the other way. They said right away, like, and therefore we're out.
Because all the reporting was they were going to use Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga as the primary matching salary in a Giannis deal, and that just made sense because Jimmy Butler's injured and not going to. So the Bucks have no use for him to begin with, right? And you're not going to get other value for him. So unless the Bucks just wanted first round picks that badly right now, so that's why I looked at it as no, like this is. Because Jimmy Butler's not going to get it done. This puts an end to it. But Porzingis, in theory, if you're trading for Giannis and you're keeping Draymond Green too, like, yeah, you want him. If Jimmy Butler was healthy, this would have been the perfect get. I like it. I think it makes them more interesting. And I'm just wondering, having him in your back pocket, it opens up some opportunity. Like, if you make a big swing this summer, the ability to re-sign him is a pretty big deal. Now, the problem is that if you're making a big swing, it's still, well, who can we get? That's Draymond plus Moody plus whatever other small, maybe Al Horford on the books, or with Jimmy Butler as an expiring contract. So I don't know what the appetite is. If we knew Jimmy Butler was going to play before Christmas, but I like the trade for the Warriors, but I'm with you that I don't think it materially changes anything this season, but I think he's a good play because this wouldn't have been available to you had they waited because he was a free agent. Right. So, like, doing it now, I think, and getting his bird rights, if he does play, he's not getting $30 million in his next contract. No way. I think doing this sets you up. It doesn't guarantee anything, but there's optionality there.
Right, because there's a world where, like, their big offseason free agent target is Porzingis. And this way, it's like, it can be somebody else because you've got his bird rights, so you can keep him, and then you go get someone else. Yeah. What about, is there any, I mean...
Oh, Can we get to the Hawks?
Can we talk about TJD? We can get to the Hawks. Trace Jackson Davis got traded for a second. If we're just closing the book on the Warriors.
Well, it was so like That's because he wasn't really playing anyway, but I was kind of like, oh, is Porzingis the guy? You trade him, and it's like we're okay trading other bigs now. Is that really like the response that
I kind of think Pat Spencer was up against the game limit, and they needed to convert him maybe, and so they needed a roster spot. Although they two for one,
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, now they could be players on the buyout market too, so we'll have to see what happens with that. But the Hawks on this end, so they did trade Luke Kennard, so they don't have like facsimiles of Kennard, Corey Kispert, and Buddy Hield on this roster now. The fuck are they doing? What this team is? They just feel like they're spinning their. I hate Jonathan Kuminga on this roster. You have Dyson Daniels, you have Zachary Risache, you have Jalen Johnson. What is Jonathan Kuminga known for? Not spacing the floor, not doing enough rebounding, too much on-ball work that isn't efficient enough. Those are exactly like all the boxes that the Hawks need to check, and he checks none of them.
I mean, put a broader definition on it. What does he not want to do? Second option shit. And like, guess what, buddy? This team has Jalen Johnson and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and both of those guys are way ahead of you in the pecking order. And they have Zachary Risache, a former number one pick that I don't know how good he is anymore, but like he matters more to the Hawks than you do. So I don't see an avenue for him to do what he wants to do, which for him, it's like, I'm sure he's glad to get out of Golden State because anywhere's better than there as far as he's concerned. But like, this is not necessarily a better situation. There's a lot of the same roadblocks here that he had in Golden State. And so from Atlanta's perspective, is this just like, screw it? Porzingis is a zero for us. We're not going to re-sign him. We might as well take a flyer and see if like Kuminga just turns into the player that got drafted where he got drafted and tantalized occasionally. Like what's the risk? I mean, that's not a crazy plan, but it's hard to see it coming to fruition with the guys they have playing ahead of him. I don't. And then say they're not in a position to do this, but like, all right, we're going to start shutting guys down, or like there's injuries and Kuminga like goes off. He like does the Anthony Simons down the stretch in Portland a couple of years ago, or like throw out
the Jalen Green special.
The Jalen Green special. The like, oh my God, it happened. Except it happened in March and nobody was watching and nobody on the other side cared, right? So like, what if you're the Hawks? What then? Because what have you learned? You haven't learned anything.
So I liked them getting Jock Landale, if anybody cares. But the only argument that I could come up with was Porzingis was going to be a free agent. And if you're the Hawks and you want to make trades this summer, having the ability to pick up the Kuminga team option to guarantee Buddy Hield's deal, that's the only that's the only logic. I don't think like if you're bringing back Jonathan Kuminga next, like if he's not traded over the off, like that's the only justifiable. Why'd they do that? Is that what's happening?
They just had a thought. Kuminga was in negotiations with the Bucks, presumably, right?
Right.
Atlanta says, "Hey, Bucks, guess what? We got your guy. We know you like him. He's more tradable to Milwaukee than Porzingis' salary, which you can't trade because it'll be off
they'll
the books."
Be the team watching his March explosion.
Yeah. Well, this is it. You've figured it out. They're going to let Kuminga go bonkers down the stretch and then offer him in a package to Milwaukee for Giannis. That's what this has been about. A+. Hawks did it. They figured it out.
But other than them wanting to like have salary to trade this offseason, I don't think this is going to go well. And if it goes well, I'm going to be very curious to see how it goes well. Very quickly, because they did ship out Luke Kennard. What did you think about that deal for the Lakers? Gabe Vincent and a second-round pick for Luke Kennard, who notoriously will probably help improve their defense, I think, in a postseason context.
Yeah. But I mean, he's one of the best shooters to ever walk planet Earth, and the Lakers, could use some knockdown shooters, but like everywhere Luke Kennard goes, I always say that, and then he just doesn't play as much as I think he's going to play, and it's because he can't guard anybody, and the Lakers already can't guard anybody, so that's a tough one.
But who on the team can? So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, so he'll play.
Right. Yeah, so he'll play because they don't have a better defensive alternative. They just have similarly bad ones. Solid logic. I don't know. I like him better than Gabe Vincent in a vacuum. So because he has a signature, he has a legit Like, yes, he has a superpower. I just don't know how much it's going to be utilized, right? Because he just weakens an already weak point for the Lakers.
I will say, I wish they would have gotten a big. I would have loved. Could they have done something like Portland would have done this deal for Robert Williams or something? Like,
I can't believe he didn't get traded. By the way,
Portland did. The one move they made, well, they got Vic Krejci. We should have led that off with. I really liked that trade for them, by the way. But
same.
I will say, I think the Lakers were smart not to do anything that was, whether it was, I don't want to care if they added money, but don't trade a first round pick. Wait for the 3 first round picks to open up this summer. So I think they were smart. And they also, for their offense being really good, they're not really a high volume or particularly accurate 3-point shooting team. And so Luke Kennard brings that. So I'm ultimately fine.
Yeah.
It is now your turn, sir.
Oh, man.
I was just, for us, can we just talk about, like, we're pacing this really? We are cutting through it.
I mean, the big ones are done. I'm trying to think what I would even nominate next. What's the most?
What about we're gonna have to talk about the Bulls at some point. Do we want to start with Vooch to the Celtics and talk about the Celtics?
That's the biggest. I guess. Yeah, that's the biggest name, depending on how you feel about Kobe White. So Boston gets Vooch and the Nuggets 27-second from the Bulls for Anthony Simons, 26-second, the most favorable of Minnesota, New Orleans, New York's, and Portland's. I don't know how you felt about this. I really like this for Boston. They just needed another big, and he makes sense in the way that they kind of like to play offense. I am by no means a Vooch. So, I feel like I knock him 10 times for every one time I talk him up, but I think the price was right. I think Simons is a good player, but I feel like Boston just needed another center because Kate has been fantastic. Like,
he should still be starting.
He should still be starting.
Yeah.
It's like so now instead of Garza or whoever, or you're playing small with like Jordan Walsh at the 5, or I think, what was it? Amari Bailey, they just converted, I think. Is that who that was?
They tried Josh Minot. I know he wasn't playing basically after Kristaps. They tried him at the 5 at one point.
Vooch makes sense. Vooch can do, the defense is not there at all, but it's like offensively, you can kind of use him like they used Horford, or even not Porzingis because he doesn't have the like mismatch busting thing, but like the price to me made sense. It's a position of need. They can afford to lose Simons, and they cut some more money. So I think that's a total win for Boston, right?
I don't know if it's because Simons was playing well, but I just think you said it. They needed another big. You cut money in the process, and I think this is one of the, we talk about weighing the bigger picture. They ended up like giving up Anthony Simons, and then what did they finish? Like down 2 second-round picks total, I think, and they got out of the tax. They started out, I'm not going to applaud a team for getting out of the tax, but for this season specifically, Simons' absence gets papered over a lot if Jason Tatum comes back this year. Just between having Peyton Pritchard
and
Jaylen
if Derek
Brown,
White makes shots. If Derek White makes shots. Like, all right.
So I think he was expendable, because were you going to pay him and bring him back? I don't think they would have. And it fills a need, like the rebounding from Vooch for sure. And in a pinch, like, you could still run some things through him. But the fact that they were able, Bobby Marks posted this, their salary and luxury tax bill was projected to be $540 million this season. It's now going to be under $190 million. And that they didn't give up a first round pick to do it, right? And they're down whatever it is in seconds. I think for me, and they're going to have to play like the 10-day contract game when I was looking. So the math is going to be tight, but like they figured out how to do it. So this doesn't count towards a repeater clock year. You do have the ability to be cost repressive next season too, as you're trying to figure out what does Tatum look like. I think that's why it's valuable for him to come back this season. I don't want him going full bore, but he can come in and play the Anthony Simons role if that's what you need done. That's fine. So I liked what they did. I did see Andrew in the chat said, why couldn't we have just kept Cornette if we were going to drop Simons? I mean, what would that have looked like? Because you ended up trading Drew you needed to take back somebody in the Drew Holiday trade. That's why. So that money was coming in. And look, the contracts of Porzingis and Holiday, and even Holiday more so, were considered net negatives. And they got at one point they were supposed to get picks back in the Holiday trade. So I thought it was a lot of bookkeeping, but in their situation specifically, we're not a podcast that normally is going to applaud it to no end. I thought this was probably a bookkeeping masterclass from Brad Stevens.
I was going to say
they're not worse. to me.
Normally it's like, oh, good for you. You saved the owner money. But like, this was just hard to do. Like this was an example, like this was an extreme case and they did it. And so, yeah, I think that's it. And look, it's happening as the team is kicking it, like is way better than it should have been. So it's just like, at some point you gotta just give it up and say like, they're making all the good decisions just across the board somehow.
We move on to the Chicago Bulls, who traded some guards, but somehow still have all the guards on the roster. Kobe White gone, Ayo Dosunmu gone, Vooch gone. They got 1 trillion seconds. They got a pick swap with Minnesota. So as of right now, I think if the season ended today, they could move up 7 spots. They did a lot, and they also have Colin Sexton. So it was just I can't wait to talk to you. Like that's the trade I want to ask you about. The Kobe White for like. Is Kobe White, that's more of a Hornets question, but is he enough of an upgrade from Colin Sexton for them to give up like a handful of second-round picks?
It's a little weird. Yeah.
What
not
did you think of the Bulls
deadline
in general?
I saw the clip of Arturas Karnisovas saying, we don't want to be in the middle. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. And the moves the Bulls made were pretty off-brand for a team. It's almost like the Bulls finally, like, I don't know, like cracked open the window at the office and like heard fans down on the street saying like, get out of the middle. And they're like, oh, okay. 4 years of kind of the same thing, chasing plans and becoming just like, certainly here, but everywhere else, just the first team you'd point to for like, God, what a just incredible lack of ambition. And that's not to say that trading a bunch of expiring guys or being in a position where you have all these guys expiring and their values are lower, so you only can get back a bunch of seconds. That's not to say like, master stroke, great roster building, but the Bulls did kind of act in the way that we've been wanting them to act like they moved these salaries, they got flexible, they have cap space, like Josh Giddey's going to make 25 next year, and I forget who the next highest salary is, but it's in the teens, and it's just, they're going to pay Jaden Ivey. You get a second draft guy in Jaden Ivey, very much like a proper, like sane with the times, rip the Band-Aid off rebuild, right? They're off the treadmill. It seems anyway, or they act like a team that wanted to do that. So I think I'm happy with it. The returns are not going to blow you away, but the process that got them, I think, is finally the one that everybody wanted to see, right? Like, I don't know, that feels like kind of the conventional take, but I think that's, Patrick Williams. Yeah, sorry, Andrew, who notes Patrick Williams' salaries on the books. I try to block that out as much as possible, except for that. Except for him, everything's great.
Well, I thought he was going to be their starting center at one point. So it's just, and look, I could quibble over certain things. Like I would have preferred, I know what their center situation is now. I would have preferred them to have kept Ousmane Dieng over like expanding that to get Nick Richards, but I wouldn't even call it a baby step. This is a fundamental shift in their thinking. And the Kobe White, I think you could sit here and say they could have gotten a first-round pick for him at some point. Yeah, they could have, but they ended up getting 3 seconds in Colin Sexton, basically, who I don't know. Like Colin Sexton, do you re-sign him and like do you get more seconds for him and move him later? Is it like someone coming off the bench? I know they have a ton of guards. And we know they're all not going to be back, but I think that for the most part, if you're a Bulls fans, they haven't done the hard part yet, to be sure. They need to stick with this path and not go, are they going to do something stupid over the summer now with their flexibility? It's not like they got any blue chip assets as part of this, but to hear them say, and then to actually act like don't want to be in the middle anymore, that's big for them. And then the other thing that they did was incredible, and Andrew in the chat just reminded me of it. Like, at first I kind of clocked, Dalen Terry was expiring. They took on Yabusele's player option for him. They did need front court help. This was before the Nick Richards trade got expanded. Yabusele declined his player option. I guess he really wanted to leave New York or has a lucrative offer overseas. And then he did proceed to like just score in double digits immediately when starting for the Bulls tonight. This was really, really good for them. So
sorry if you forgot to mention Rob Dillingham, another second draft guy.
But at some point it's like, so you have Josh Giddey, you have Rob Dillingham, you have Jaden Ivey. Like, what is this all? This is a team going to be fast. At some point, just for the lulls, you got to throw out 5 point guards, right? That needs to happen.
Why not? I absolutely. I want to see Buzelis at the 5 though. And you just play 4 point guards. That would be fun.
Oh, fine. I guess we can do that. So I want to talk. Let's move on to, because there are a few spinoffs from this team. Let's do the Hornets.
Okay.
The freaking Hornets. I'm honestly, the thing that I'm mad about is that the Hornets weren't more aggressive because they're so damn good now. Winners of 8 in a row as we record. They made Ime Udoka basically demand that the Rockets trade Alperen Şengün after the deadline. That's how good the Hornets are. What do you think of the Kobe? They did other stuff too. They picked up seconds. Mike Conley's still on this roster for now. He might end up back in Minnesota. That's probably the team we need to talk about next. What do you think? They didn't do anything wrong. What do you think makes Kobe White that much more valuable to them specifically than Colin Sexton? What is it? Just he's younger and the theory of him as an on-ball guy is better? Because when you dig into the data, do you know who's better?
It's Sexton. Yeah, I don't know what. In my mind, Kobe White's a better player than Colin Sexton. But when you look at the numbers, and I think Mike Shear made this on his Basketball's Poetry Substack, made this point of like, it's really like 14 points at 61 true shooting versus 18 at 58. And it's like, different flavor, different strokes for different folks. It's not really that different. I get, but again, though, I think Kobe White's better. If pressed, I'm not sure how I would justify that case. I just think he's a little better. But is this a position of weakness for Charlotte? Like what did?
Well, I mean,
that's another element of it.
I
don't know that they needed a guard.
I don't. Coming off the bench, though, I think if you wanted to say Kobe White is better than Sexton, because one, I think on the ball he has more side to side amble than a Colin Sexton who's more north south.
Yeah,
I actually think that Kobe White is the more versatile passer, even if the assist numbers don't add up to it. Like Colin Sexton feels like it needs to be very basic stuff or spray out of drives. The other thing that I think is important is you can use Kobe White off the ball fundamentally differently compared to the way that you can use Colin Sexton off the ball. And so as someone who's coming off the bench, if you ever want to try and go 3 guards with Concanipo, LaMelo Ball, Kobe White to me makes more sense than Colin Sexton. You're not losing anything. And by the way, he's also younger. I don't know how much that matters. He's 25 or in his age 25 season. So I think I gave this deal like a C+ or a B- because a lot of it is theoretical. But when I think about it from the Hornets perspective, I like the Kobe White fit beyond this season a lot more than I like the Colin Sexton fit beyond this season.
Okay, maybe that's where my preference comes from. So that was what I was going to ask you. Do you assume that they intend to keep Kobe White? And is that necessary for you to like this trade? It has to be, right? Because they gave up more stuff.
And I mean, yes, I think so. That would be the other thing is they might wind up like net even in seconds based off some of the other business that they did. But yeah, by the way, I love the bit of them just acquiring former Thunder players who don't stick. So Ousmane Dieng was a member of the Hornets for like a hot minute. Now he's a member of the Milwaukee Bucks. So, but yeah, because you gave up. I mean, the pick equity ends up being a 2029 second, least favorable of Charlotte and Denver. Denver's 2031 second and New York's 2031 second. So that's 2 seconds that you could talk yourself into being top 42. And so yeah, you better bring Kobe White back. If you don't, maybe it's because you made a bigger move, though.
Sure.
But that's the bigger takeaway here is I know their offense is receiving a lot of credit. Grant, they're like around the top 5 to top 8 in defense since Thanksgiving. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Opponent 3-point shooting, Dan. Where's your tinfoil hat? But
I sound just like that when I talk.
But the offense scoring so efficiently allows their defense to get set. And Charles Lee is a madman if you're able to get your defense set. And I think it helps. The emergence of Moussa Diabate has been huge. I think Brandon Miller's probably been more solid on that. Even LaMelo Ball just hasn't, but I haven't watched as often and been like, oh, gross. Getting some minutes from, I mean, gross. I know people have kind of fallen out of love with him, but they do have like also just sort of those pests where it's, if we need just pure defensive anarchy, here's Sion James. This team is approaching, and I would have made the case before the Jazz made their move, before the Wizards made the Anthony Davis trade. I would have said if there's a team where they have this discordant timeline relative to buying at the trade deadline, but they should ignore it, who is it? I absolutely would have picked the Hornets, and I will pick the Hornets leading into the offseason again because this team might be coming.
They're on the short list for sure. Yeah, the offense alone is like, okay, we got to kind of take notice of what these guys might be.
What were you going to say about their defense, though?
Oh, it needs to happen for longer. I wasn't going to go for the 3-point thing. I actually didn't have that stat top of mind, but that probably
the other thing
second thing
I was a little surprised they didn't get 2 first-round picks for Miles Bridges, but they didn't trade him for nothing, so he's still on the roster.
Weird.
Do you want to do the Timberwolves next? They're kind of another team that's spun off of the Bulls.
Yeah, so we mentioned Rob Dillingham gone. He goes out with Leonard Miller for Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips. Is there anything else going on?
Yeah. So the way to look at this for me is they traded Mike Conley and a 2026 swap to the Bulls. They also traded 4 seconds, Leonard Miller, Rob Dillingham, and it was all to get Ayo Dosunmu. It's and Julian Phillips if you assign any value to him. When you saw the Mike Conley trade, my impression really was, what? This team is gearing up for something big.
I thought it was a Giannis precursor. Is they're getting like things set up to get where they need to relative to the aprons, or just like that. That was my kind of hopeful thought. Well, not hopeful because I wanted the Warriors to trade for Giannis, but like that would be the most interesting way for that to have been spun. But it did not go that way. Did you go there too? You must have gone there too.
I wasn't sure if it was Giannis or it was like, was it just someone we weren't talking about? Jake Fisher alluded to that Bam Adebayo was on the move. Was like, is there something going to be like happening there?
Well, we deduced that again. He didn't want to
aggregate it and just don't tag us because we want him to still like us. So when you look at it through that, as Andrew points out in the chat where he's asking, Mike Conley can re-sign with the Timberwolves now because they're not his former team anymore. Mm-hmm. The Bulls are, right?
I bet you he will, right? It seems like that was all drawn up in advance.
So let's look at it this way. Is a 2026 swap, 4 seconds, Leonard Miller, Rob Dillingham, worth extra financial flexibility and Ayo Dosunmu? Because I excluded Mike Conley, so I'm just going to assume he comes back.
Maybe. Maybe. A lot depends on if Dillingham's going to be anything at all. But, well, let's put it through what the Timberwolves care about right now. Rob Dillingham was not going to be anything at all right now. Dosunmu isn't perfect, but we tried to trade him everywhere because we like him and he makes sense. And he does address a backcourt spot that I think the Wolves needed to address. When you lay out all the assets, though, it kind of sounds like a lot for Dosunmu, doesn't it? Is that what you're getting at?
You better re-sign him, right?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, you can't. Well, yeah, I think you do have to re-sign him. It's kind of like Kobe White and Charlotte. Like you better intend to keep him around if you're doing this.
They could have done. So my whole thing is, I guess what I'm struggling with here is they could have figured out a way to do this exact thing without dropping down in the first round to trade Mike Conley, which I guess will to amount so that they could have Mike Conley at a cheaper rate. Is basically what it amounts to for me. So the Dillingham thing, that's another sunk cost. It's sort of like you don't want to let the Luka trade inform so much of how you feel about the Anthony Davis trade. You can't let what they gave up and where they drafted Rom. Like it wasn't happening in Minnesota. And
it was a miss.
Ayo Dosunmu doesn't have as much on-ball jiggle and joggle as a Bones Highland or a Rob Dillingham, but he does the best of when you look at Mike Conley, Jalen Clark, Bones Highland, and Rob Dillingham. If you needed someone to blend as many of the things that they do as possible, you would have, like, maybe Cam Spencer would have been a better fit, but you weren't getting him. So I'm curious to also see, like, what does he cost? We've decided. Go ahead. Oh.
I was gonna say, Big Santino notes it's not that they messed up on. You're speaking my language. I forget who laid it out. Maybe you saw this, but essentially, if you assume that they are keeping Ayo and they're going to pay him market rates, which might actually exceed what Alexander Walker is getting right now.
No, you think he's going to get more than Nah?
Nah's not making that much, dude. Like it's under.
You got 20. The mid-level, so you think Ayo gets more than the mid-level?
It'll be at least close. And so the argument was like they could have just kept on, not had to do all of this.
Why not just dump Dillingham and like do this in the first? Right,
yeah, which is persuasive to me as an Alexander Walker acolyte and early adopter.
Now,
but yeah,
hindsight's 2020, but the problem is that in the moment, it was pretty 2020 that losing Nah was going to be a bit like that.
Yeah, we like Nah. He's one of our guys.
So there's some stuff before we get to teams that maybe didn't do anything. Let's talk about oh man, no, we got to talk about this team. Jaren McCain. The Sixers traded Jaren McCain. They also did other stuff too. They ducked the tax. All it took, Grant, was Paul George getting suspended for 25 games and trading Jaren McCain. That Rockets pick is going to be 24, 26 that they got for McCain. They got some seconds. I am unmoved by their trade deadline. This was cheapness in excess to me. The Eric Gordon deal, fine. This deal, I understand he didn't have a pathway to necessarily breaking out if Quentin Grimes is going to stay for sure, but with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. But are we kidding? This is just like, this is what, I don't know. Like, if you're lucky, you'll draft someone with that Rockets pick who's a third as good as Jaren McCain.
Well, so that's where I went on this is I wonder if the Sixers have decided, I mean, one thing is decided, which is like those at least the starting backcourt minutes are spoken for. And then beyond that, I think Grimes is actually someone that is just better than McCain at the moment and probably will be for as long as the next contract McCain was going to sign. If you're just comparing the two production over the next 5-6 years, whatever. And the other thing is, I wonder if the Sixers also just decided like those 23 games we got from McCain that'll be his career apex, and we might as well just get another first and see what we can do with it. I don't know how you would know that, but that's how this makes sense to me. I'm not sure I agree. I think McCain, I would have wanted to see more before I just used him to save money, basically. Like, you get a first, it is an actual first. It'll be 20, I don't know, 2 to 28 in the first round, at the end of the first round. But yeah, it feels a little light. I kind of get it though. I don't know why. I actually have a little skepticism about McCain, but I don't know. I think the Sixers must have just decided like, we know who our guard rotation is going to be, and we might as well get an asset and save money.
So you don't love it, but you don't hate it as much as I do, is basically where you end up.
Yeah, I'd probably land. I'm kind of lukewarm on it, I guess. But it's a yeah,
it's a rite of passage. They had to duck the tax. They always make the salary dumping trade. This is so cheeky. Monkey 8818 says Jaren McCain thing seems like more of a vibe thing and VJ. So that the implication being that the vibes were off in Philly, like Jaren McCain wasn't happy. I mean, sure, that doesn't move me as a reason to move him. But I guess, what was it, 3 seconds and a late first, and you get out of the tax. Josh Harris, I'm assuming, is thrilled. The other side of this deal to me is more fascinating for reasons that are both good and bad. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's dealing with that abdominal strain. Jalen Williams has that hamstring injury. AJ Mitchell's dealing with a hip injury, right? Thunder are banged up, and now they just get Jaren McCain, another guy, cost-controlled for 2 more years after this one. They had first-round picks to spare. Right. I love this for them in terms of taking the swing. I'm uncomfortable because it feels like they needed this, just looking at all the injuries that are mounting on their roster.
Yeah, did we talk about this morning? I think maybe we talked about it at some point about like, maybe should there be some urgency for the Thunder? I think I ultimately land on like, probably not. But they got the assets to do it if they wanted to, and I don't know what the name would have been. They certainly could have swung a little bigger. I'm not. Let's see. What's our concern level for the Thunder? Like 1 to 10, as far as like, are they the favorites? I can't get like a.
It's 3. To me, it's still just
not that
fully.
concerned.
I would be more concerned if I looked at, the Timberwolves are actually consistent. They're not. Or I looked at the Nuggets and said, they've been pretty healthy, which they have not themselves.
Well, here's a great point. You raise a great point. Like, what trade happened in the last week that made a really good team better? That is like a threat to the Thunder. Like, I don't
we
see
about
it.
To slander the Pistons. I love it.
I don't see it. Like, what move like meaningfully improved a team that was gonna be in the conversation with Houston didn't get way better. The Spurs didn't get way. Nuggets
Jose
didn't do anything.
Alvarado to the Knicks.
Wolves didn't do anything.
concert?
Well, I was trying to tee you up for that one. That was the most meaningful move of the day. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think the Thunder should feel more vulnerable now because of all these injuries than they have really at any point this season. But nobody else did anything to like make them, feel scared. I don't think.
Do you think I don't want to move too many steps ahead, but do you think that them making this move is more about just the opportunity and maybe the immediate need / mini urgency, or do you think this kind of telegraphs, well, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, all three of those guys not going to be here next year, or maybe Isaiah Joe, and like to me it reads like one or two perimeter players that are in the rotation right now are not going to be around next season. That's my loose read on it, but maybe I'm skipping too far ahead.
Maybe a little bit, but I do. I think the other component is like the cost was low enough that like, yeah, you just do this if you're the Thunder. Like they got enough picks. They got 2 years worth of rookies in the lottery that haven't even played for them yet, that are in the pipeline. Like, what are we going to do with a number 24 pick in this draft? Like, let's just take McCain. He's cheap. He's actually been good in a stretch of his rookie year. Makes sense. So if you do need to lose one of those guys, no big deal.
Thunder traded for Balsa Koprivica championship. I did grade this trade, and I gave the Thunder an A+, not because I think the 25-year-old 7-footer is ever going to come stateside, but I like collecting draft rights because teams need to touch in these like mega scenarios. So if you just have these dispensable draft rights, just top-notch stuff from Sam Presti. However, I am surprised he wasn't fired because he was not the first lead executive to trade for a 2032 first-round pick. Do you know who was?
No. I'm
Sean
halfway to. Oh, okay. There you go. Oh, that's right. You're getting us to MPJ not being traded. That's what's happening.
So let's go to the Knicks here. They traded 2 first-round picks and Dalen Terry. It's basically Gershon Yabusele and 2 first-round picks for Jose Alvarado is what it turned into.
Seconds.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I apologize. Seconds.
He's worth, Jose Alvarado's worth 2 firsts, but they didn't have to get that.
I think this ended up being a really good deal for them, and part of that is because they needed it. Deuce McBride is now going to be out until at least the playoffs with a core muscle injury that I didn't know he had. They were listing him out with ankle soreness.
That was news to me too.
Hashtag Knicks and transparency on that one. I like this because with Deuce McBride out, we did talk about how point of attack defense isn't too important. It's mega important when Karl-Anthony Towns is in your front court. Mm-hmm. And without Deuce McBride, their best point of attack defender is Landry Shamet. Kudos to Landry Shamet, but you need somebody else. Jose Alvarado does that. He is the better passer than Deuce McBride, and he's shooting 36+% from 3 over the past 3 seasons. I do think if you're going to give up 2 seconds, you're probably hoping that he's planning to opt in to that $4.5 million player option and maybe extend off of that. But I didn't think this would have been a good trade even if Deuce McBride was like you traded someone who really shouldn't have been playing to someone who might actually play in the playoffs if his threes are falling. Mm-hmm. Good trade. But it was, to me, I came to view it as an essential trade.
Right. Yeah, no, did the McBride news drop after the
Yes. Basically, it was basically immediately after.
Yeah.
I got a text from my father-in-law, Knicks trade, good, is all it said. And I looked at it, and then I was about to answer him, and the notification came about the Deuce McBride thing on my phone. I was just like, I didn't even know he was out with a core muscle injury. I kept seeing ankle soreness. Which you don't miss 5 games with ankle soreness, by the way. That's not a thing.
Well, it depends on if your team's tanking or not. I liked it a lot. It makes sense. Like, of the small time moves that, like you said, this is one where it's like, oh, that's a playoff rotation guy. Like, he's actually gonna do something meaningful, I think. And I bet you he will opt in, by the way. Just because like it's just the marriage of him in New York is just like that. That's gonna work. I think he's gonna want to be a part of that.
It's probably quick fire time. Let's talk about the Pelicans, not just end of this. I think you make this trade like 2 seconds for Jose Alvarado, but he is a culture setter there, so that's a little weird. What are they doing? Like, should they have traded any of the Zion? The Trey Murphy one, I'm kind of the mind, no, don't trade. Like, unless there was the like the Ivica Zubac type offer, but for Trey Murphy, probably needed an extra pick in there. The Zion and Herb Jones, like did you expect this team to be more active, or did you take them saying we're not trading anybody at face value? Like it seems
I did take him at face value, and I thought it was dumb. Shamit Dua was pointing out the other day on Blue Sky about, the reality of the New Orleans sports situation is that the owners of the Saints and Pelicans care about, they're losing sponsors, that people are leaving the front office. Like it's a terrible situation. It's just not one that could maybe stand like we're trading guys for draft picks rebuild type thing. So they were very much motivated by stuff that shouldn't be. It's unfortunate that they're motivated by, because if you can get 3 firsts for Trey Murphy, I think you take it. If you can get a first for Herb Jones, I think you take it. If you can get good value for Zion, I think you take it. It seems like that wasn't going to happen for kind of the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Shout out to Cheeky Monkey. We got a super chat, Grant.
Hell yeah.
You guys rock. Thanks for the show tonight. You guys have real potential. Keep it up. Real potential. That's definitely what I want. Thank you so much. That's what I want to hear after 10 years of podcasting.
Appreciate
the potential is still there.
But
thank you in all seriousness.
Trying to get better.
Yeah, I don't know what you and Shamit are right on everything you said. I just don't know. I just don't know what this. I don't know what to solve or what the end game here is. I think there are Pelicans fans that believe they have the core of this team could make the playoffs next year, and I just don't. I don't see it.
Who's not playing right now? That like
DeJounte Murray, sir.
All right, yeah. Let's. I don't know, man. I would have traded everything, I think, but like we've said already, it's a lot easier to tear things down than it is to build it up. So that's the first half's the easy one.
Rapid fire Orlando Magic duck the tax. You favorite
traded Tyus Jones? That was one of the more inevitable deadline moves based on how he was playing and their proximity to the tax. Bummer that this is where we are with the Magic based on some of the preseason hype, right? Where it's like,
I didn't pick them for 50 wins, except that I definitely did.
Yeah, I don't know.
To be fair, ducking the tax this year you don't want to start the repeater clock if we're looking at the reality of the situation, because the real reality is, hey, billionaire owners just pay if you think your team is good. Now, this team is not great. It could be good, I think, at full strength. At least their core lineup is going to be really good. But with Paolo's extension kicking in, you have Desmond Bane, you have Franz. Jalen Suggs' deal is declining, but it's not tiny. And now all of a sudden, the question becomes, is Anthony Black going to get more money than Jalen Suggs? You needed to get out of the tax. And yeah. Ideally, it wouldn't have been you wouldn't use Tyus Jones to do it, but Tyus Jones, I don't want to say he was actively detrimental, but that was not the player they thought they were getting or the player they signed. And this is a team that's going to have to, season's not over yet, but they need to look inward and figure out some offensive things over the offseason for sure. Are the right players in place? Is the right coach in place? There's just not. And again, they've been injured, but there's not enough diversity in the way that they play their offense.
Mm-hmm. It'll start with Mosley. And then if that doesn't solve it, then we'll have there's already is Paolo really the guy? Whispers. Mosley will go, and then Paolo will earnestly have the discussion about Paolo. I feel like that is the roadmap for the next 18 months, probably.
The Brooklyn Nets, Grant, held on to. I think we're gonna have to go to the Detroit Pistons after this, because I think they're the team that angered me the most. But not. They're still so good, so I'm not actually angry. Were you surprised that they waived Cam Thomas, but Michael Porter Jr. is still there? Nicholas Claxton is still there. They have Ochai Agbaji now. So they have they got some more rangy defenders on this team. Were you just surprised that they didn't do anything more significant when looking at bigger money that they took on, or is this about what you expected from them?
I don't really understand not trading MPJ. I think if there was a 2 first, maybe now it seems like that wasn't realistic, but if there was a real first and then a fake one out there, I think you probably should have done it. It's hard for me to imagine MPJ's value getting higher than it is right now, just because he's playing so well. The contract now doesn't seem totally onerous. He stayed healthy again. I think this was the time to move him. So a little surprised there. Cam Thomas thing, there's just nobody wanted Cam Thomas, or nobody was willing to give up anything for Cam Thomas. If you want Cam Thomas, you can sign him. Yeah, and I was going to say in the offseason, you can sign him right now if you want to, because he's available. Anything else about the Nets? I think I don't know. Were you surprised MPJ didn't get moved?
I kind of thought it did seem like the messaging was that he wasn't going to get moved close to the trade deadline. But do you think that there was an offer with 2 first-round picks on the table for him, or no?
I'm going to say there must not have been, because I think the Nets would have taken it. If there were 2 real firsts, I think that deal would have gotten done.
Maybe I'll be wrong, but if there weren't teams willing to put 2 real firsts, I'm not saying they needed to be what the Pacers gave up for Zubac, although the season Michael Porter Jr. is having. But if there wasn't a team that was willing to give up the equivalent of 2 firsts for Michael Porter Jr., I don't know. I have questions. But I think the Nets overall, I expected them to do something a little bit bigger, whether it was selling or taking in. Like Ochai Agbaji was the biggest salary they took in. Josh Minott play, he had some good moments for the Celtics earlier this year. I do like that they just continued to short Denver's future. Now they have their 2032 second for taking on Hunter, and they gave up another second to do it. And Denver, very quickly, I was fine with that deal. I don't love giving up the 2032 second, but it was a reinvestment in, okay, we can be players on the buyout market now. And they got a 2026 second back. So it is prioritizing adding talent to keep kind of the Nikola Jokic train rolling while you're paying it. The real inflection point for me with the Nuggets, aside from can they get healthy and what will they do in the playoffs, are they just willing to pay Peyton Watson after paying Christian Brown? Like I didn't expect Peyton Watson to get moved, but that's the next inflection point for this team.
I'm really glad Peyton Watson. That would have. How disappointing would that have been if it just? I think had they moved Peyton Watson because they are afraid of what it might cost to match an offer sheet in restricted free agency. I don't know that you've been correct to point out that they do pay their guys, so maybe that was overblown. But I was a little nervous about that one. I'm glad he's still there.
Let's talk about the Pistons, who it's not that they did something. They got Kevin Huerter. Are you disappointed that they didn't seek a more aggressive upgrade, especially in the front court? Well, I want to say the front, they're set at center, but kind of from not even just, if you weren't going to upgrade the Tobias Harris spot, but like get like a better alternative behind Tobias, or just something there. Are you disappointed, or is this their first in the East? They did get rid of Jaden Ivey as well. So now that like they don't have to worry about paying him now that was a whole thing. So I understand what they did, but I was kind of bummed. I was hoping they were going to be the Michael Porter Jr. team, because I think this is the team he would have made the biggest difference on.
Totally agree. That I guess that is what I wanted to see happen. I can't claim to be disappointed though, because from the jump they were saying they weren't going to go do something like that. And I think if you get out there with that message that early and you stick to it as often as the Pistons do it, it's probably not posturing, and it wasn't. So like they did and didn't do exactly what they said. I still wish, like, MP Porter Jr. on this team made a ton of sense to me. And I get it. Like we talked to Jake this morning. He kind of said like, they think they're ahead of schedule and they're cool with it, and they've got guys that are going to need to get paid coming up eventually. So yeah, like they didn't feel any urgency. I just like, if you're this good and you have a pretty clear need, just address it. And like, maybe you win the whole thing. Like maybe the Thunder don't get healthy and you just win a title because you traded for Porter Jr. Like they're that good. So I would have pushed the pedal down a little bit. I think. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe the offer just wasn't good enough.
Could we see Malik Beasley come back? I think it's less likely in Detroit now that Kevin Huerter is there. But I guess if he wants to come back, I'm sure a team will want Malik Beasley. To your point, though, or I guess to undermine my own point, let's assume the cost for Michael Porter Jr. was too high. Because I kind of viewed it as they got Kevin Huerter. Now you can move Duncan Robinson, step out while keeping Tobias Harris. Like you could do all these things. What was Jaren Jackson Jr. was already moved. They shouldn't have given that up for I don't think he was the guy for them. Larry Markkinen then clearly wasn't going to get moved, and I didn't want to see them give up a ton. I also, again, Trey Murphy doesn't sound like the Pelicans would have traded him for anything. Yeah. Where does it would be fair to ask, okay, well, if not Michael Porter Jr., then who?
Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be a shooter.
It's not my job, Dan.
At the 4, And like, I don't know, are we going to trade because he's a 4 now? Is Klay Thompson that guy? No, I don't think so. Like and that's, I don't know. I was hoping you wouldn't say Trey Murphy so I could say Trey Murphy, but if you're not giving up what it costs to get Porter Jr., you're definitely not giving up what it would cost to get Murphy. I don't know. And like, so Buddy Hield got traded. He's not a 4, and he also hasn't made a shot this year. So it's just Herter actually, the way as we're running through it, Herter's not a bad get, right? Because he can actually make a little bit. And he's never quite gotten back to what he was how long, man, time's a flat circle. A couple of years ago when he really looked like, oh, this guy is a fringe starting caliber too in a good offense. But maybe he can do that in a smaller role for the Pistons. You sort of can't play him and Duncan Robinson at the same time ever, but maybe you just have a similar, one of them runs hot, one of them doesn't. You have that guy out there that's going to fill that role. But I would have loved to have seen it at a front court spot.
Yeah, and the more I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, I don't know who the target would be. I don't like Santi Aldama is probably 2 combo 4-5. You know who would is he good enough shooter, though?
Bring him back now that he's good again.
Jalen Wells probably doesn't give you enough shooting, right? Like, or at least enough guaranteed shooting.
No, and I think he might have been, the price might have been fairly high for him too. That might have been a first.
Well, I saw the messaging that the Grizzlies were viewing Zach Edey and Cedric Howard as their core, and I clocked it as, well, I'm calling about
Jalen Wells. Wondering what about me?
Just to investigate there. Another team I think we do need to talk about, and we kind of glossed over them when we were talking about DeAndre Hunter, the Sacramento Kings. They did move Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. They now have DeAndre Hunter, but Sabonis there, Levine there, DeRozan there, Monk there. How are you feeling about your Sacramento Kings, sir?
We talked about the Cavs side of it. I hate that trade for the Kings. It's so stupid. Hunter, I just don't think does anything. They don't have any big wings, and now they do. Hunter's not playing well. I just don't think he's worth that contract. I think Ellis. This is another one where it's like, how did you get to this point with Ellis, where like this is what you're doing? You're taking on money that goes beyond this year. And it's like a significant contract for a guy that doesn't make you a ton better. Yeah, Cheeky Monkey is right. I think we're going to get a DeMar DeRozan buyout.
Even with the guaranteed money on his contract next year?
What's he got guaranteed for next year?
10 or 13? 10 or 13 in that range?
I thought I saw a rumor that, in addition to that, just being in my brain, I thought I saw a rumor that they were going to look at that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess because
the DeRozan buyout's tough is because the team that he goes to can't be an apron team,
right? Because I don't know, man. I can't remember if I already said this, but this is another one where the Schroeder signing was stupid. The way they dealt with Ellis up to this point was stupid, and so now they're just stuck with we gave up. It's just that it got to this point is the problem. More so than just maybe Hunter plays well for them. I don't know. It would be hard for him to play very much worse than he had for the Cavs this season. But just the series of decisions that got to this point are the issue.
And can we go through it, because it's this regime, the current Vivek Ranadive is responsible for everything regardless.
Schroeder's a Perry guy. Like Perry made that happen.
This is just that we'll focus on 3 or 4 decisions, not declining Ellis's team option to make him a restricted free agent. Mistake 1. They then flipped Jonas Valanciunas, who was really good for them, for Dario Saric, who was really bad for them and required a 2nd-round pick to get off so that they could create the flexibility to sign who, Grant?
One Dennis Schroeder.
This fucking franchise is incapable of doing anything that makes sense for more than a minute or a season at a time. And now you're sitting here and I don't know what the path to a teardown is. I don't know what the path to, this needs to be, go ahead.
The path is not adding DeAndre Hunter. That's not a teardown move. That's let's fill this need move so we can win 26 games instead of 24.
Well,
like that.
But did they give up? Because would you have rather of them kept Schroeder and let Ellis leave? Is my thing. Like,
that's the problem, is that my frustration is more from like, and Kings fans will never get to the bottom of like, why weren't you playing Ellis more? Like, why wasn't Ellis just a bigger part of this team from the jump? Nobody's ever gonna know. Okay, let's go down the alternate path. You just hold on to Schroeder and Ellis. Maybe you lose Ellis in free agency. We pile on the Kings for that. Right? That I guess.
What? Big
how could they have won?
Excited. DeAndre Hunter and Keegan Murray. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Keegan's been hurt for most of the year. I don't know. How could the Kings have looked better? How could they have come out better? Not trading Hunt for Hunter?
Well, so
yes,
it's not that it'll be easy to do this, but you could make the case that you should make the case after all their moves. I'm sure you knew this. They're a tax team next year.
Yes,
Grant.
they are.
So now you're going to have to shave money at some point, which is probably why you're going to go the DeMar DeRozan buyout route. Or if I'm DeMar DeRozan, fuck them. I'm just going to stick it out because they're going to pay me my money to go away. And you'll just be a free agent next summer versus just tough it out at this point, dude. Do you know how we could know that the Kings are the biggest hellhole in maybe the history of professional sports? If Zach LaVine, of all people, just declines his player options, it's like, fuck you, I don't want my $50 million, get me out of here.
I mean, what a litmus test. Just like, and can we root for it? Wouldn't that be just the funniest thing of all time?
I'm torn because I feel like the Kings should have to pay for their, like Vivek Ranadive should have to bankroll this.
No, the scorn, just the embarrassment would be so worth it if he's just like, you know what, guys, I don't need this money this badly. I would like to leave now, please.
I will default to whatever Kings fans want to see happen in that scenario. How's that?
They've been through enough.
Grant, we are very close to having talked about every team. Let's continue the lightning round. The Toronto Raptors, they got TJD, your guy. That's an A. Yeah. They dump Ochai Agbaji. Took a 2032 second-round pick to do so. That was a little bit I like Ochai Agbaji as a defender. Offense is all over the place. Were you surprised just based off the reporting on all the bigs that they were linked to that they didn't make a bigger move? Or do you look at this team and say, I mean, for a team that's so high up in the Eastern Conference standings and that I like so many of the individual players, I feel very not great about their, I'll say, what was the word we invented? Confuzzled. Confused and puzzled. I'm confuzzled about their direction.
I guess who was the big that they were rumored to get that you had like no notes on? Because it wasn't Sabonis. We talked about that a little bit. It's like, that's not, I could see it. There's some value adds like as an offensive hub, and maybe he'll shoot more threes, or maybe just the low volume works because it's accurate, but didn't love the fit. And that would have been.
Would you have done? It would have had to have been, I think, this. The Hawks wouldn't have wanted Pirtle, I don't think. But RJ Barrett for KP, would you have done that?
That's interesting. You get a lot of pushback. You get a lot of actually Barrett's really valuable for them. And it's kind of silly that he's like the trade chip that always gets thrown out there. KP is that would have been a fit at least where I'm like, yep, makes sense. But then how much is he going to play? So that's better than Sabonis. But I never heard that. Did you hear that rumored KP to the Raptors? I guess.
I'm assuming the way they were turning over rocks for big men, it felt like they were linked to Claxton or Sharp at one point. They were never linked to Cheeky Monkey. That's a good point. I didn't hear any Zubats chatter with the Raptors.
I mean, that would have been better than Sabonis, I think. But I guess I'm not.
Sabonis is what, Grant? He's a floor spacer.
I thought you were gonna say razor.
Well, have you seen? Like some of the on-off data with him for the Kings this year, he makes them better.
Oh, congrats. No, I do agree that it felt like they needed a piece. I just don't think the right one was out there, or at least not one that was like that it got tied to them in any kind of serious way. Plus, like Jakob Poeltl forever. He's going to be there. You know what? They're in extension negotiations with him right now.
Another team, Portland. They got Vic Krejci, so they win the trade deadline. It cost them Duop Reed.
But they lost Duop Reed, so they lose the trade deadline.
This is what's the equivalent of a Sophie's Choice, but it's just like a moral. Is that the moral dilemma? Because I'm not picking between two things. I just don't know how to feel because it's the Thanos. How much did it cost me? It's like we got Vic Krejci, but what did it cost? Everything.
What is it like a Pyrrhic victory? Like you won, but you burned down the whole town to win. So or something like that. So did you really win? Somewhere in there. It's too late to come up with the proper analogy exists. Just neither of us is going to get there at this point.
Yeah, it's after 1 a.m. my time. I am tired. Here's the thing with Portland. The Vic Krejci, I think that was just a sneaky good move.
For sure.
I did kind of want them to just be the honest team. Would have been hysterical because they have the 2 swaps in the pick.
Or get involved. Get involved at least.
I really wanted them to get more shooting on this. And Vic Krejci does it. Let's see how much he plays. But this team is so, on the nights that they're on, they are so fun to watch. And I just find myself saying, I would probably like another playmaker too. Like, what is going on with Scoot Henderson type deal?
Yeah. He's going to play. Did you see that? He's coming back.
I did not.
Yep.
Did he come? He came back already?
No, he's coming back. I want to say it's like their next game, but it might also be after the break. But there's a timeline. It's going to happen. I think it's sooner. I think it's the sooner of the 2 options I gave you. So hey,
he's making his debut on Friday.
That's
all right. So okay, just get shooting on this team. I beg you, would have been so. Or I really would have liked to have seen Robert Williams on a team that might have needed him more. I don't have complaints about. I understand like why did I want them to go all in? But they would have been a team where it's sneaky. Like Michael Porter Jr. might have made some sense here. Trey Murphy, that would have been a fun. I liked them I liked the Jazz more than them, I think, but they were another Jaren Jackson Jr. team that could have been fun.
Oh yeah,
they and the Hornets, I think, are the teams that are like they're kind of caught in the middle. I want to see them like just go bonkers over the offseason.
Yeah. They're very much like the Jazz, where it's like you get the right one more piece there, and suddenly the outlook is very, very different. But they can still get it. I mean, they got those Bucks picks. Guess what? Once we're back doing this, just to circle all the way back to 2 hours ago, once we're doing the whole Giannis dance again, the Blazers should enter the chat and just see, hey, fellas, can we facilitate something? Like, because the swaps and the picks they have are gonna be valuable. They're gonna be valuable at some point.
Miami we're on to the teams that did nothing. There were only 3 of them.
Oh,
Miami was the only team in the Eastern Conference to do nothing. How do you feel about that?
Well, they were in on Giannis insofar as anyone was in. They were never going to have a good enough offer.
To be fair, they might have had the best or the second best offer, which is why you don't trade Giannis right now like that.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. They didn't have the offers were insufficient, I guess, for the Bucks. So I don't know what would we have wanted them to do. I know we did a whole preview on move Tyler Hero so you don't have to pay him. I don't know what was the market going to be for Tyler Hero, so you don't have to extend him.
They're kind of just in like consolidate or get off the pot at this point.
They've got the 27 cap space dreams, and they've got the Giannis aspirations too. So it's like,
at what point do we do we just say the Lakers and the Heat are the teams where it's they're planning for cap space and we're okay with that?
I was gonna say they're one of a very select. They might be one of 2 teams that
okay.
I think we can still like with a straight face say, wow, they're carving out cap space. But that with the Giannis designs that they have, I think it's like, all right, I get it. You want to,
and they're going to have 4 first-round picks this summer plus Khalil Ware. Is that, if you're actually evaluating Giannis offers, is that a real offer?
I would like to think that the Bucks can still do better than that. Okay. But maybe not. I mean, the Warriors had 4 on the table, and it was like Pods and Kuminga and Draymond. Your mileage may vary on which one of those is better, I guess. But yeah, I'm sure they'll throw that out there. I don't know if it'll be enough by then. Because everybody else's offers get better.
But then what are they left with? Because now you're losing Terry Rozier's matching salary over the offseason. Ditto for Norman Powell if he was going to be part of that trade. So it's Hero, Where, make the money work with everyone who's not named Bam. You have no picks, and it's Giannis, Bam, and Pele Larson.
Well, yeah, Wiggins probably going out as matching salary in that one,
he's a player option. Is he even still like around? Like, can he be?
Yeah, maybe you've got Wiggins back on like a multi-year deal for less than 30 a year. Who knows? Well, actually, probably not. No, yeah, I don't know. I want to try to guess. Well, the Spurs didn't do anything, so that's one of the West
Which
teams,
should make
right?
you mad. You were a little bit. You wanted them to do something.
They were, well, like anytime we brought up any interesting big name, the Spurs were always my favorite spot. That from Giannis to Markkanen to MPJ to Trey Murphy to like you name it, just because I Wemby allows you to kind of build whatever you want. And I love Castle and Harper, and I would love to see more shooting around them. And some of the guys that happen to potentially kind of sort of maybe be available, like Murphy and MPJ, could shoot. So I wanted to see something even more interesting happening in San Antonio that's already happening. Although I did want it both ways because I wanted them to keep Castle and Harper in the process. And I don't know how that works. They should have traded Fox, or they shouldn't have given Fox that money or something.
What?
I want Castle and Harper as my guards. Fox
is
always
what happens when you podcast after 10 p.m. Pacific time. Is you just
I've been pretty consistent Fox. that I think like Fox is nice, but I think
he's been their second best offensive player
so far. I think Castle and Harper are both going to be better. I think
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. You wanted them to make a win now trade because it would elevate their status as contenders, but you're sitting here saying
separate argument. It's a separate argument. I think Fox, if Fox could be your third best player, I think you're in pretty good shape as like they could win a title. But right now he's their second best player. That's not good enough. By the time that dynamic flips where it's either Harper or Castle and not him, then it's like he'll be a little too old. The fit is imperfect to me. Why are we talking about this? Because I started
this is one of your most cognitively dissonant takes of all time, where it's they needed to make a move to be a contender, but why wouldn't they just trade Fox regardless to let Dylan Harper and Steph develop?
Well, for one, it's trade deadline day. I'm real tired, a little punchy, as I said at the top. No, I guess maybe I should amend that to say Fox has always felt like I haven't loved the fit there. And that's because I think Harper and Castle are your guys. Now, maybe all three can play together eventually, but both of them came off the bench tonight because you got Vassell back healthy, and so it's Vassell and Fox starting over those two guys.
Honestly, I just don't understand why they didn't trade Wemby so that Steph Castle and Dylan Harper
so they could contend.
Develop.
You're probably
so
right.
we have one more team to hit, and it's the third team that did nothing. Who's the one team we have not talked about?
No, Phoenix did something. It's just going to be dead silence while
we didn't talk. I'm sorry, we didn't talk about Phoenix. Let's do that really quick.
Well, that was Nick Richards, right?
Yeah, they ducked the tax. Well, super. I mean, they're just if they could have done something been the Zion team, if the Pelicans weren't looking for picks, I would have. Their fans seem to have been against that. You can't, after living through the past 2 or 3 years, fuck with the vibes of this team. It's just not allowed.
I think the Suns should have split up all their remaining picks into 3 different picks and just really up their asset pile.
You should have they should have swapped of the already swap. I'm sorry. I'm all for kind of eliminating. Would you be all for eliminating swaps altogether, or can it at least be one swap? I can't deal with these multi-dimensional swaps.
Once a pick is swapped, it cannot be reswapped or forwarded in a future swap. I want that because I don't like you get the middle two of Minnesota, Cleveland, Portland, and Phoenix. Like I don't like those. Or the 2 least favorable. I agree. Simplify it. Is Houston the other team?
Houston's the other team because they didn't. The Suns shouldn't have done anything. It would have been nice to see them maybe get more front court scoring, but the vibes, that team are immaculate.
Yes.
The vibes in Houston, not so much.
You're really fixated on Udoka going in on Şengün tonight.
No. I was fixated. Not that I defer to fan bases, but I normally recognize that if you're a fan of the Houston Rockets, the odds are overwhelmingly good that you've watched more of the Houston Rockets than me. The number of Houston Rockets fans that think that they needed a big, like after the Steven Adams injury, I like in defense, I really think the offense is a bigger problem. When I'm looking at them through a postseason lens, I'm more worried about the offense of this team.
Completely agree. That's the first thing that jumps. Maybe I've seen the wrong games, but that's what I think. That's pretty clear to me.
And so I love Reed Shepherd, and you have Kevin Durant, but like Alperen Şengün, I was all on the Alperen Şengün train to start the season. Like that's been someone who's fallen off a little bit. They needed something, another half court creator or just someone else to open up the floor a ton. And I thought look, if you wanted them to get a big, they didn't do that either. So them doing nothing at the trade deadline, that feels like I don't know if it's a missed opportunity. They were so close to the hard cap, but I don't know if I was surprised. I guess I was a little surprised that they did nothing because I think they needed to do something.
Yeah, I think so too. I just this isn't really a trade deadline conversation, but like I think the Amen Thompson Şengün, really it's about Thompson. I think if Thompson's going to have a big offensive role, like you're just kind of hamstrung in a lot of. I can't get that Spurs game out of my mind a couple of weeks ago where they, like the Spurs just solved them in the second half by putting Wemby on Thompson and he just ignored him. Like he didn't have to do it. He got to roam. And I think any good team, not everybody has Wemby, newsflash, but like any smart team is going to give similar treatment to the Rockets, and the offense is just going to be very difficult to execute. So them not going and doing something to improve the offense, it's not easy, but like a shooter, a playmaker, like it wouldn't have. Where were they on, I don't know, on Kobe White or something of like that tier of move? Because I agree with you. I think it's the offense. I think that's the issue.
Can I give you my after, it's about 1:30 a.m. here, take? Is if you could have done some sort of a swap, maybe it's Amen Thompson in salary for Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, I think this team would have been better off. Are they better off with Trey Murphy instead of Amen Thompson?
If you were giving me both Herb and Murphy, I would say they're definitely better today, but I would have couched it in like, but if Thompson ever figures out how to shoot, then it's real scary because Thompson's great at everything else.
Yeah. You obliterate your on ball if it's just Trey Murphy. You've obliterated you still have Tari Eason, Dorian Finney-Smith, but you obliterate your on ball defense.
You fundamentally change the identity of your team. And maybe too early for that. Maybe you give Thompson another year before you get drastic. But yeah, I would have that conversation. I would put it that way.
Which is maybe that's just maybe that's just my late night take here. Do we have anything else? Let me look at these comments. Oh, this from Cheeky Monkey's interesting. With the new CBA, it will be interesting to see the buyout market. I think it's going to be juicier. I'm torn on that just because of the way that some of the good teams might not be able to sign some of the best players who are on the buyout market if they're making more than the mid-level. And if you're going on the buyout market, you're losing your bird rights. And so you would presumably want to be able to go to it's not, I'm going to go on the buyout market so I can sign with the Bulls or the Kings.
Yeah, I don't know how much the new CBA it's affecting a lot of things. I don't know if the buyout market I don't know if making the buyout market more interesting is one of them, right? Like just because of what you just went through.
Yeah. You have any other notes on this trade line aside from it just being absolutely insane? Did you have a favorite? What was your favorite move, or you think was the best move, or the move that isn't getting enough credit at this deadline?
I'm trying to think. Nothing was like, oh my God, what a heist. Like I'm trying to think if there was anything as I'm scrolling back through it now that like really jumped out as like some just unequivocal win for a team, or something that made me think the way that I thought when the Hawks got that pick from the Pelicans on draft night, for example. Like there's nothing. I think the most interesting trade is probably the Garland Harden trade. We talked about it for quite a while. I guess I have more of some macro thoughts to close, but maybe what do you have? What was your favorite?
Honestly, I'm fascinated by the Utah Washington Wizards of it all. I think more so with Utah, just because I think their ceiling, even in the Western Conference, is immediately higher. Well, looking at next season, that I loved it, but it's also something that I recognize I could be wrong, and so it piques my curiosity. Even I loved what the Jazz did.
Yeah, I think they tie into what I will remember this trade deadline for, which is two teams at the bottom of the standings, the Jazz and the Wizards, different types of like win now swings, but like really like those aren't the kinds of trades we've seen in recent deadlines where it's just, oh, well, we're really bad, we're just going to build through the draft, because that's the model that I think we've collectively decided like that's the correct way to do it, right? And I like a bit of a shakeup in that they're a little different because the Washington one is like, holy shit, like you're gonna get these distressed assets and like throw them as bookends around these young guys.
When is it? It's never happened. There's this has to be. When has a team ever traded for that much money in just 2 players, like $100 million,
and giving up first, basically
one,
one,
nothing more
singular.
than the yeah. Do you? So if we had a bet right now, does the Warriors pick Convey? I'm going to say no.
I don't think so.
Right.
So that's what that's what I'll remember it for is that like I think maybe we're getting some little hints about like what is now the acceptable length for a rebuild before we just like floor it or like do something pretty interesting. Like what I guess what my takeaway will be is that I think teams' appetites for just continuing to pile up young guys and hoping one hits and doing nothing else, I think that's diminished. And I think there's more of an appetite for let's get some guys. And that doesn't mean we have to trade away our young players, but it means we just put them in smaller roles until they prove they're ready or not. And in the meantime, we win games. So I think maybe that's what I'll take away. It's kind of a convoluted take.
That's definitely an offshoot of the flattened lottery odds, right? Because you have a team like the Wizards or the Jazz who have not gotten the type of player that you would want spending the years in there. Like maybe it's Sarr in Washington. I'm not trying to devalue those guys, but I think it's a byproduct a little bit of the flattened lottery odds. However, the thing I am tracking, I also think there was a unique opportunism here because my big picture takeaway is we look at, and I think it's gone too far, is we now look at like the bar for what constitutes not a toxic contract feels like it's been raised because it feels like there's no truly terrible deals in the league because for the most part, unless you're Jakob Poeltl, they're also short. But now we're getting to a point where these big money contracts, I guess you're starting to think about their next contract too, but it's if they're not a consensus top 15 player, we don't want them on anything near a max. I just wonder if we're heading towards that and just the impressions of it's tough because I agree with a lot of the criticism. Anthony Davis is old and always injured and hasn't looked great this year. Trae Young is just hard to fit in, but the Jaren Jackson Jr. of it all, that to me was a deal that should have skewed towards fine. And it just felt like the value Memphis got, not that it clearly wasn't underwater, but it wasn't as far above water as it should have been. And it makes me wonder, even with the Giannis rumors, we say the offers are going to be better. Does Giannis ultimately end up getting moved for less than we think? Bam Adebayo in Miami. What are teams willing to give up for him? Like, so that's, I don't even know if it's a takeaway so much as it made me want to monitor how the league is going to value these they're still stars, or they're supposed to be stars, depending on how you feel about an Anthony Davis type. These non-superstars, like even if the Celtics put Jaylen Brown on the trade market right now, if they could, I would be curious to see what they get because of how how large his contract is, and he hasn't proven even this year. Maybe this is probably a bad example because he's had a great year, but do you think that he's just in any given season, maybe, but in the macro sense, is he a consensus top 15 player?
Maybe. I think what one other thing is like the types of teams that might be interested in a player like Jaylen Brown with all that money, who's like maybe usually an all NBA guy, but I mean this year, sure, might be very surprising. Like it might be your Wizards or your some of those teams, because in addition, I think to the flattened lottery odds kind of messing things up with respect to rebuilds. I think the death of free agency is causing teams to be like, cap space, who cares? We'll just trade for a giant contract that doesn't have a bunch of time on it, and we'll just see what happens with it. Because like Anthony Davis isn't what Dallas wants. He can be what we want. We're not any good. He'll make us better. Like I think the types of teams that would be willing to onboard bad contracts are maybe different, or at least they want them for different reasons now. Because it's like, it used to be the bad contract would come with a bunch of firsts attached. Anthony Davis didn't come with any firsts attached, like any consequential firsts attached. Trae Young didn't come with consequential firsts attached. They just took the players. So I don't know. I think my understanding is still evolving, but it feels like things are different with like what you're saying, like what those contracts are worth, who's interested in them. Like it's things feel like they changed at this deadline.
Do you have anything else, or are you ready to take us out of here? And there will not be, because StreamYard's got to figure that out with the vertical. I'm not going to put up an end screen because it looks so weird on the, even putting up the comments, like it does weird things. That shout out to everyone. We still got some people in here, a few dozen people. Shout out to everyone who stuck with us till.
What are you still doing here? You sickos.
We love you
I guess
all.
they are sickos. It says it on the screen.
Yeah, you are all the real true sickos. Thanks for everyone who tuned into our trade deadline series primer that we did for every team. Thanks for the comments. We love, Grant and I have had talks. We need to figure out live streams. It's just when we record normally in like the dead of the afternoon, it's just no one's around during the middle of the week. So hopefully we'll be able to figure that out or something to do more of these. Cause I love getting comments and being able to riff off stuff like that.
I do too.
Thank you.
This is also what you get when you get me after my bedtime. And I feel like I've said a lot of words and not made a lot of sense tonight.
Can I say one thing? I wasn't disappointed in your performance. I think your analysis was still spot on. I was disappointed in the sense that you weren't punchy enough. Like I was expecting some real just off the walls takes from you. And
I'll try to be punchier. If we start even later, if we start any later, I'm just gonna be like, I don't know, Dan. You tell me what you think. I don't want to talk anymore. I'll just throw it to you. Oh, all right. That should do it, right? 2.5 hours is enough. It was trade deadline day. We did it. You guys all did it with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. Read all the content that Dan produced in the written form, because I don't know how many thousands of words it was, but it was many thousands. And it was a great job. And he worked his ass off. I worked pretty hard, but I would not say
you did.
I was hard as Dan.
Look, I know how your schedule is set up. No one else knows this, but the schedule you had to juggle. I was waiting for you to cancel on me tonight. That's what you were here.
Nope.
This was like your Michael Jordan flu game, except the flu was just
not
exhaustion.
Sick at all. I'm just old, and I need to go to bed at 10 o'clock or I get cranky the next day. It's a big mess. You'll get there someday. All right.
For everyone who caught us on BR, that was really cool to see. I got DMs about it. I thought that was really cool that everyone was watching us there. So go tell them to go in their comments, and we want more of Dan and Grant or HardwoodKnocks, whatever we're known by. Probably HardwoodKnocks.
Anything. Just put us on more.
Go tell our employers to use us.
Tell them who we are, that we're ready for work, like we're on LinkedIn or whatever the icon is. All right, we gotta stop. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Join our Discord. Links in the